That's enough of that, right? All right, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to TransTrem Thursday. It is June 15th, 8:06 p.m., and we are ready to go. We are live without a net. We have a great guest tonight. We've got Marty5150. We got a lot of stuff to get to, and I'm excited. Met Marty for just like 30 seconds in the green room, so I'm going to be getting to know him a little bit better along with everybody else. So let's get started. Let's see who we got waiting in the wings here. Let's see. Oh, there it is. I think, yep, there he is. I think it is Mr. Trev Symmetry. What's going on, dude?
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, brother. What is happening? What is happening?
Right on, right on. Well, another day in paradise here.
Right? You excited for tonight?
You bet, you bet.
Man, I got home.
I'm a fan of Marty's. I sub to his channel. I watch his lessons. I've got a couple of favorites of his that I really enjoy going back to a couple times.
I know you've mentioned him a few times during our shows about, checking out the little transcriptions.
First saw him on the Johnny Bean show. And followed him home from there, basically. Very cool,
very cool.
Yeah.
I obviously have seen, quite a bit of his stuff. Actually, I've gotten a few lessons from his videos. I'm not gonna lie. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Man, I got home and I'm a little nervous still. I got home and I came downstairs to make sure everything was good to go because we had, big show tonight and my cameras wouldn't work. My guitar sounded different. So everything just seemed to be going wrong. So, but we're up, we're good to go. Hopefully everything sounds right. And let's get going. Let's check out the chat just real quick. We'll say hello to everybody that's here. We had Ronald Young in earlier, said he was going to be watching the replay, had to work. Graphite and Cigars is here. Good to see you.
Graphite.
We have Stephen Franklin. We have Dan Gorman. We've got Ryan Hall. We got Tim Thomas. We got the Axe. And let's see who else we've got. We've got Patty Dill. How's it going, Patty? Good to see you. Hope you're feeling better. Let's see.
Yes,
who else do we got? We got Holly Fluffy Clouds.
Fluffy Clouds.
Yes. Let's see. Who else do we have in here? Trying to get through here real quick so we can get started. We got John DeShane.
Cheers,
welcome in, John. Let's see. Bocephus Mode. Good to see you again. Welcome back.
Right on.
Let's see. Joe Hervey 84. Welcome back, man. Good to see you. Alonzo is here. Good to see you, Alonzo. Right. We've got Kurt 5150. Good to see you, man. Let's see. Who else we got? Papa Blue. Good to see you. Dan Gorman. I think we said hello to him already. Let's see. Jimmy Ray Hawkins. Nice meeting you the other day. I tried to give you a call, but we couldn't get connected. But we'll get connected and figure out what it is that you're needing to get sorted out. Let's see. Who else do we have? We got Wally in the box. How's it going?
Right on.
Let's see. Who else? I believe we have... Oh, no. There was Blackjack Guitar. Good to see you, man.
Cheers, brother.
We got Ryan Fraley. Another Ryan in the channel.
Oh,
I want to know how OU812 makes EMGs actually sound good. Man, I tell you what. This Steinberger with the EMGs... I believe these are both EMG 81s, neck and bridge.
81.
This is just the absolute best guitar I have ever played. The EMGs sound sweet. And, yeah. So anybody new to the channel, basically TransTrem Thursday, I have a replica GL2T, like Eddie played in Live Without a Net. We get on here, we jam out a couple TransTrem riffs, and we just have a good time. So I want to welcome everybody in. We've got 40 Grit. How's it going, man?
Right.
Bryce Regal. Let's see. Man, we got lots of folks. Marty5150 must be pretty popular.
Bringing home to the house.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mick is here. And I believe we are caught up.
We got Guitar Man 45 and Janice Lala.
Guitar Man 45 and Janice Lala. There she is. Oh, we got a Timothy Lay down here. And sorry, I didn't see Guitar Man 4. There he is. Welcome in, Bo. Good to see you. All right. So, without further ado, shall we get the man of the hour in?
Yes,
Let's
please.
get him in here. I think, hopefully he's found the door. Yep, there he is. He's found it. So let's get him on in here. No introduction needed. Mr. Marty5150. Welcome in, man.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we appreciate you showing up and, hanging out with us for a bit. Like we said, a lot of us, everybody in this chat, I think, has probably watched your channel. And it's funny because, I try to put up shorts and a couple videos and this and that, along with the live streaming that I do. And, being a YouTuber, you go in, you see your analytics, and it shows other channels that people are watching.
Right.
Yours is always on the top on mine. When I go in and I look, other people are watching this channel. Yours is always on the top. So I'm like, I want to see if he'll come and hang out and just, give us some insight on, your early days and,
Sure.
and your YouTube start and all that kind of good stuff. So,
Well, I really appreciate you reaching out to me on Instagram. It's always a pleasure to meet new people and talk about guitars and anything Van Halen stuff or whatever you want to talk about.
cool.
I just got a small channel too. Certainly could be a lot larger. It helps us both for both our channels. And
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm glad it was able to work out.
We appreciate you showing up. I don't know about that small channel. What, you got like 15 million thousand subscribers on your channel?
It's getting there. Yeah, it's getting there. It's a long road. I still can't believe I have 100 subscribers. I mean, it's one of those things where
Right.
I go, I don't know why people are watching me.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
You give us a nice variety of stuff with, it's not all just lessons. One of my personal favorites is Let's Go Dime 2 half stacks on the patio.
Yeah. Yep.
And good, clean fun like that, or even your trips out with the skipper, going to the music stores and stuff.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna do some more of that stuff. I've during the winter I shied away a little bit from doing stuff like that because it's cold and it's not really cold. I'm out at Nashville, but it's nice to get outside and be able to do things that's a little bit more crazy, like stacking the amps out on the deck and cranking it. I've got another one I'm preparing to do in the near future. I just got to get some volunteers. Unfortunately, Skipper's sick. Skipper, I don't know if I guess he wouldn't mind me talking about it, but a lot of people have asked me about him, and he had a stroke several months ago. Yeah, and he relapsed and had another one. So he's got family in Florida, so he's been spending time in Florida trying to rehabilitate. So I talked to him last night for about an hour on the phone, and he's in good spirits, but it's a slow process. Not to be a downer on the channel, but just to give anybody an update on what's going on with him. And
absolutely.
Lots of vibes and love towards.
Send him all of our well wishes that he gets better.
Yeah, he's a good buddy, and it's fun. He'd come over a lot of times when we had nothing else to do, and we'd figure out anything that crazy I wanted to do that was like, hey, let's stack some amps up outside. He was always like, okay,
let's do it. Yeah.
So
the smoke machine.
I know. So I've got a couple other friends of mine that are willing to do some interesting ideas. But in the spirit of Skipper, I know he'll probably watch the replay of this, but
well, it's kind of funny because Trev and I, a lot of times we'll be just, doing an off the air hang in StreamYard here like this, and we'll be like, I wonder what, and he's like, well, let's try it for science, let's just do it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to see that. I really, really did like that one where you had it out on the back deck, and he, it's kind of humorous the way that you set it up. He's driving down in the car and he's going, I wonder if I'll be able to hear him out here.
Skipper? Was that half a mile away?
Yeah, it was about half a mile. This, I don't want to spoil anything. So, it may not happen, but my plan is to get a tripler pedal, a triple input, and I want to put 3 stacks outside this time. I want to do 3.
Hey.
And
for science,
it's a lot of moving, so I need help, moving these cabinets around. So I want to get a tripler pedal and run those, or 2 doublers and run it outside. So,
or you could get the new EVH pedal and do you a wet, dry, wet out there.
I thought about doing that also.
Yep.
I gotta get with my contacts and see if I can get me a deal on one of those pedals. Or a little pricey, but man, they sound great. every demo I hear of them, I just, it blows me away. I'm like, that's completely Edward's tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to. I would like to grab one just to kind of compare. I've got a couple of original SD 3000s back there in my rack. So that's what you were hearing during the intro.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful.
Well, thank you. Oh, before we go any further, I have to offer condolences on the Martin guitar.
I appreciate it, man. I was pretty pissed
I bet.
when I did it. You know, about 20 years ago, I was at a jam session, and I remember talking to the drummer, and we got to talking, and I had a couple of guitars leaned against my car, and he says, "Hey, wait a minute, you know, you forgot to put your guitars in the car," because I was just talking. I was like, "Oh, thank God, thank you." And I've always been, that moment, I thought to myself, man, that would have been the dumbest thing in the world to do, right? And about 20 years ago, that happened. No lie. And then Sunday, I was going to a session on Sunday morning really early, and I had to do an acoustic thing and I had to do an electric thing. And it was, you know, when you leave in the morning, I'm a creature of habit. When you leave the house, first of all, if it's too early, it was about 6:30, 7 a.m. when I was trying to leave on a Sunday. That's
Right.
that's not cool.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of guy that has to put my car keys in the same spot on the counter next to my glasses, and I leave my wallet in the same spot, and I get everything that way I don't forget anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm getting to is I had my gear ready to go, because no one wants to load up gear in the morning when they're trying to go load out, right? It's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought I bring 2 cups of coffee with me when it's that early. I'm a double fister, right? Yeah, one for later, one for now. And so I brought my gear out to the car, and it was locked, and I thought I unlocked it. So I leaned the gear up against the side of the car on the back door, right? And I was like, crap, I can't get in the car, it's locked. So I got to go up and get my coffee anyway. So I went and got my coffee. I was running a little bit late, and I exit my house out the other door, and I lock everything up, and I get down to the car, and I put my coffee in the car, and I realized I left my phone. You got to have your cell phone, right? So I'm just all discombobulated, trying to get out and trying to rush. And so I went back to get my phone, and in doing so, I was out of my routine.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in the car with my phone and my coffee, and you know, got it started up, was ready to go, sent a text message to somebody, "Hey, I'll be there soon," blah blah blah. Backed up, crunch. And it's a sound that you'll never forget.
Right.
So I thought, you know, I was so happy, and I had my Fractal, and my Axe 8 was out there on the ground in a backpack.
Oh no, yeah.
My Fractal was in a backpack, and I had I had a Richie Kotzen Telecaster and my cheap, quotation mark, cheap Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out there, and I pulled back and then forward, and there was the tire track all on it, and I thought, great. So it sounded like Scrabble pieces when I picked it up. You know, have you ever shake a box of Scrabble pieces?
Oh yeah.
So I picked up the guitar, and I was like, this is gonna be bad, and I just shook it, and it went. And
Don't even look.
The YouTuber in you immediately thought, I got to make a video about this.
well, you're right, because we're always searching for content, right? I'm like, I got to figure out something. So I left the guitar in my driveway. I just left it. I didn't even look at it. I didn't want it to ruin my morning, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I just left it, because I thought if someone steals it,
you know.
they're going to be like really poorly surprised when they take this. I kind of wish someone would have stole it, and it would have been hilarious. But it'd been the ultimate like punk on someone thinking they were getting a guitar. But I got home and kind of late and in the afternoon, and I didn't even look at the guitar. I had to do some. Well, honestly, I mean, I don't know if you saw my Eddie Ojeda video, but I got Eddie's. I got this sitting here. You know, this is the.
How cool is that?
And,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I had to come home and Eddie's. I needed to wire up Eddie's guitar. I wanted to get that done, and I didn't feel like looking at the Martin. So the next day, I was sitting there thinking, I got to open this up and see how bad this guitar looks. And the YouTuber in me, I was like, I got to film this, because I think this is what I think. If I would watch it, other people would probably watch it, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of, I mean, sometimes that's not always true. Like, 'cause I watch some pretty stupid stuff on YouTube, but
Don't we all?
yeah, right. You know, one of my favorite things to watch is Tavares. You know who Tavares is? The guy that fixes cars. He's putting together a P1 flooded McLaren he bought for $580,000.
Oh wow.
He's putting this thing back together. And I love to watch car stuff. I couldn't put a car together if I tried, but for some reason I like to watch these guys torture themselves. I think it makes me feel better in life knowing that my problems
are not that big.
Are insignificant, right? I'm not putting together a P1 McLaren. I just broke a $400 Martin.
Yep. Well, I guess, on the bright side, that was the least expensive piece of gear that you had out there, that if one of them had to get crushed, that one, I guess.
And I found I'm going to buy, I don't like Fender acoustic guitars. I mean, if anybody owns a Fender acoustic, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I've never had a lot of luck with Fender products with their necks and stuff. But maybe I've just had a couple bad ones. But I found me a Fender T-Bucket 400 CE with a Fishman in it. It's got flame maple front, back, sides. It's beautiful. And I really don't care how they look, but it's a bonus if a guitar looks good, right?
Yeah.
And it plays good. So I found this, and I'm going to buy this used from somebody for about $180.
Yeah.
And it sounds pretty good. I mean, it's got a Fishman in it, and it's a little clunky sounding acoustically. That Martin sounded decent, but
it'll get you by.
I was surprised. I looked at that Martin, I was taking a look at the video. You watch your own videos, right? Unfortunately, I don't watch my videos really carefully. When I edit them really carefully, and I don't go back and watch them. So the next day I'm like, man, I hope I didn't pan the camera back and catch myself in my underwear or something like that. Right. And I mean, truthfully, right, it can happen. And of course, I'm never in my underwear shooting videos, but that's just a dumb example, but you never know. And so I was going back to look at this video after it was posted, like halfway through the day. And I was looking at that guitar is pretty cheap. I was looking at the way it was constructed, and I can see, because I've worked on some expensive Martins and I've seen stuff, but it's pretty obvious. It looks kind of like cardboard. If you go back and look at the laminate on that thing, it's pretty cheap. I mean, the magic of that guitar was really the electronics. It sounded okay acoustically, but
and I've noticed that particular model, they seem to be pretty consistent with any of them that you get off the shelf. They all sound pretty much the same. So
it's like Paul Reed Smith, like SEs. I tell people, like my friends who have kids and stuff, they ask me, what should I get my kid? What should I start them off with? And I almost always tell them, get a SE, get a PRS SE, because they are consistent. And those Martin acoustic guitars are really consistent guitars. Sometimes I have to lower the action on it. Sometimes, just like any guitar, you got to tweak it. But, it's really, really consistent.
Speaking of action, your dry humor as you're pulling, the action's a little high. Oh, man, I must have been laughing at that.
I forgot I even said that. Someone mentioned it in the comments, and I thought, I guess I just off the cuff. I'm like that, I'm kind of a glasses half full kind of. Well, I am a glass half full kind of guy. I'd like to think of myself as a positive person. I don't like to dwell on negative stuff, and I'm happy that my channel is overwhelmingly positive, because Van Halen stuff. I don't consider myself a Van Halen guru or an expert. I mean, I've been playing it my whole life, so I just try to share. Here's what I've discovered over years of just sweating through this stuff forever. And I'm kind of close. If you can come up with something better, great, but let's learn together. But it's a positive community, and I like to try to be positive. And in the face of garbage, it's like when you got limes, make lemonade, right? If you got limes, make margaritas. I think that's a Brad Paisley lyric.
Right. Well, watching your channel and the way that you approach things is a lot like the way that I do, because, I'll put up a short or something like that, and you'll get these every so often, this comment, well, that's not how he plays it. You're playing it wrong. It's like, I don't care.
It's true.
What we say here on the channel is we do this for the smiles. I hit an A chord, on my rig here, and I'm smiling for the rest of the day. So
true.
if I can play something and it sounds kind of close and it makes me happy, then so be it. So I appreciate that about your channel, that you're like, this is the way that I hear it. This is the way that I figured it out. And
This is the way I'm going to play it.
Eddie or any guitarist probably never played the same thing over and over exactly the same way. So
Yeah,
Well,
all
that's
the
true,
greats mixed it up.
and I'm sorry my mic's all in the way here. I don't
no,
have
you're
like
good.
You know,
but I don't. That's true. Eddie played stuff differently a lot, right? And even like if you watched Eddie on the last couple tours, he played things a lot differently. Not because he was older or because he couldn't do it. It's just as you
mixing it
develop,
up.
as you develop as a player, you decide. The intonation sounds better in a different spot, or
Hmm.
a different string on a riff sounds better than and he might have forgot. I mean, quite honestly,
Yeah.
one thing that, and I'm not bagging on Eddie, I would never do it. I mean, everybody forgets stuff, but one thing I could be wrong, but one thing I always thought he played the Hot for Teacher part wrong in the last couple tours. Like people are going to crucify me for saying this,
Right.
but I don't know if you can hear this. Am I too loud?
No, you're good.
All right, so like the part of Hot for Teacher when it goes after this part. I'm not even playing it right. That's the part. I'm not playing it right now. That's correct, but I think Eddie on the tour was going. He was doing something different there. There's something that he doesn't do the same way, but I'm thinking maybe he likes it better. Maybe he liked
Could
it
be.
better than the recording.
Yeah.
But I never thought he was.
Different gear, different setups. Your ears are hearing things different because you're 30 years older now.
Yeah, and he might have
Lot of
rewrote the
variables.
part. So I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe I played that part differently than Eddie did. But Eddie, how dare you, Marty?
Already
Hey,
getting the flack.
I think that's a joke.
Yeah,
But it's true. Go back and listen. Go back and listen to like the 15 tour, the 12 tour. There's something he does. He goes like. Maybe that's what he does. He goes up to like this F. I got to go back and listen to it. I'm making
Right.
a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
I guess my point is play
Mix it
play
up.
mix it up, play it.
Well,
Play
I
it
I
the
think
best that you
Dimebag did
can.
that a lot too, right? Dimebag
Yeah.
was known for playing his crazy crap
You know,
three
you
different ways.
you hear back from then when they were, going out, Wolfgang was getting ready to go with them. I read something or heard something, some kind of video on YouTube or something where he was like, okay, here's the set list. And Eddie was like, oh no, I got to relearn all these songs,
Right.
because I get it, because even 10 years ago when I was in a band, original stuff that we had written and I had played, if you asked me to play it today, I'm like, I don't know.
Dude, if you ask me how to play something I taught in a lesson like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'll be like, I don't remember, because I learn on average about 6 or 7 songs a week, and that I chart stuff for different projects, and I go through stuff. It's like wash, rinse, repeat, and I know this Van Halen stuff in my mind. I hear it. I know every single note, and then when I do a lesson, I spend time with it, right? And I get it where I feel comfortable enough to shoot a video, obviously. But then, if it's not something that you perform or play constantly, it's gonna go. Relearning it's quick. If I go back and relearn stuff, I learn it a lot quicker because it's like muscle memory. It comes back, but you really forget stuff. I went to the 2004 reunion show with Sammy, right? And I went to the second show in Hershey, and I had the passes. I had the sound check passes. There's like maybe 50 or 60 people there, and we got to see Van Halen do sound check, and it was just Mikey and Alan, Eddie there, and we could talk to them. We could say, "Hey, play I'm the One," or play something, and a lot of the stuff we yelled out, they were like, "I forgot it."
Yeah.
Because they've been playing a certain set list for so long, and it didn't bother me because I'm like, yeah, they're human. It was funny,
Yeah.
And Eddie would rip out a few licks of something, but then they would kind of come together. And it was in an off subject, but we were yelling up to Al about something. We were trying to say something to Al, and Mikey was like, he's deaf, man. He can't hear you.
Oh.
Quit trying to. And plus, he had his headphones on, but
Yeah.
he's like Al's deaf. He can't hear you. So we stopped trying to communicate to Al. But
Wow.
it was cool. They played a bunch of, until they reunited with Roth in '07. You never really got to hear Mean Street and stuff like that. I mean, you did a little bit for the Van Halen 3 tour. So I guess I'm recanting that statement, but you didn't think about during the Roth or the Van Hagar era. We were really starved for all that old stuff. It kind of became forgotten, kind of like how the Hagar stuff just kind of got forgotten during the Roth
Drifted
reunion.
away. Yeah.
Right. It was like it doesn't even exist. Like like a bad ex. It's like it's part of your history, but
Yep.
no one talks about it.
Yeah. Now, do you have me personally? I like all genres, even Van Halen 3 with Gary Cherone.
Yeah.
I always say that Van Halen was Van Halen because of Eddie and his guitar playing. Do you have a preference of Roth, Hagar? I'm gonna lean. This doesn't mean it's better or it's worse. I have a preference towards the Sammy Hagar era. Okay.
And for one reason, I was just learning how to drive and coming of age when 5150 came out.
Yep.
And
The
we
set
all,
and
we
the
all,
Alpine.
adults, when you're in adult life, you tend to lean towards music of your late teens and when you're growing up. And that's Sammy said it in his book. He said, if you ever want to remember something in life and you can't remember a specific date when something happened, think about what was popular on the radio, because it reminds you of that time. You're like, oh, that was on the radio. It must have been it was Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax was a hit. Okay, it was 1985, right?
Yeah,
Or 84.
yeah.
That's when I did that. I remember going to this party and it was the hit. But I mean, the first 6 Van Halen records are untouchable. They're flawless. I mean, front to back, in my opinion, the first 6 Van Halen records are flawless. They're like Led Zeppelin records.
Yep.
I think the only other band out there that even came close, or you could compare to their catalog is Led Zeppelin. And I think Van Halen were pretty much our era of Led Zeppelin. They were that good and they were that creative. I think they're better than Led Zeppelin, even though I hold Jimmy Page and Eddie on at kind of the same level.
Okay.
I love Jimmy. God, I love Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin. But Hagar years, man. I've got a lot of great memories going to Van Hagar concerts because I was old enough to buy tickets. I saw OU812. I was too young to go see 5150. I couldn't get anybody to drive me to it because I didn't have a license. And so I lived through Live Without a Net on VHS vicariously forever and watched it 14 million times.
Oh, yeah.
Got to see OU812 once, and then I saw the Right Here, Right Now. I didn't see the For Unlawful tour, but they did that Right Here, Right Now tour like right after it.
Right.
Like, I think I'm going from memory. It's like around '93-ish, something like that, right?
The one I saw was The Balance.
And then I saw Balance after that, and that's I saw Sammy, and Sammy is such a genuine dude. I mean, a lot of people hate Sammy. A lot of people, I don't know why people can't stand Sammy, but he's just a really genuine guy. I saw the Other Half play. I saw Sammy and the Wabaritas, and I saw the Van Halen reunion tour 3 times in '04, which they were good shows. They were a little rough when I saw them in Hershey. It was the second date. But I saw them in Louisville, and they were great in Louisville, and they were pretty good. They were pretty spot on in Cincinnati. Nice. So I saw them 3. So I mean, that's just my memories.
Yep.
First time I got to see Roth was with Van Halen was 07 with
Same.
Wolfgang. I saw Eat 'Em and Smile,
Right.
and I mean, I used to think Eat 'Em and Smile was a better record than 5150.
Uh-oh.
I did. I thought, back in those days, I've got a Steve Vai video out. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but about me, and my history with Steve Vai, but, Steve annihilated me, man. Crossroads and Eat 'Em and Smile and Flexible. So I just, but Eat 'Em and Smile, this is an analogy, but Eat 'Em and Smile is still great. But 5150 to me is kind of like eating steak and vegetables. And Eat 'em and Smile is straight up junk food, meaning it's
Right.
good.
Cheeseburger.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. You just start plowing through it and you just eat it, and after a while it's like, man, I gotta stop eating candy. I gotta eat some steak. And then you put on 5150 and best of both worlds, and it's mature. Not that Eat 'em and Smile is immature, but you can it's I think 5150 just aged better. And that's just my opinion. I'm only talking
Right.
what the
I'm
hell?
going to vote with you there. I mean, my two Van Halen albums are the Fair Warning and 5150, both more to do with the environmental aspects of what was going on in life at the time. I mean, with the Fair Warning, it was one of those, you're over at a buddy's place and you go into his older brother's room, and he's got all these albums, and that was one of them, and let's put that on. I was like, oh, wow.
It's
awesome.
true. It's true,
But then,
man.
1984 came out, and now we got a little synthesizer. Dun, 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 and it's kind of it went one way, and I was going the other way towards thrash with Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer. Yeah,
I see the comment. Here's the deal with music and opinions, right? And I've said this a lot, but music's a lot like food. And if you can make somebody the best street tacos in the world or best spaghetti in the world, it could be awesome, right? But if that person doesn't like that type of food, they're not going to like it. No matter how good it is. And so that's what's awesome about music and art is, there's people out there
subjective.
there's people out there that hate Van Halen. I was talking to this girl the other day, and she said to me, she's like, I never really liked Van Halen. And surprisingly, I get that from a lot of women. And I don't know if it's, and that's not, I'm not being sexist in saying that, but I get a lot of guys like Van Halen, and they relate to it.
It's kind of weird because my peer group, we kept the Van Halen in circulation in order to try and keep the girls there with the Def Leppard and other stuff.
Right.
And we had a little more of heavier tastes. But
now growing up in high school, a lot of the girls, they were like, oh yeah, David Lee Roth, he's hot, But and that attracted women, and that's understandable. It's human nature, right? Just like us guys looked at Lita Ford, or us guys see Nita Strauss nowadays, and we're like, oh, or Orianthe, or whatever. If you see it, you're like, yeah, they're pretty, and it's going to draw you in.
I had the biggest crush on Nancy Wilson. She's
or Susanna Hoffs, right? Or whoever, Lita Ford.
The list goes on and on.
Right, but that's music and attraction, and I mean, there's something sexual about music. It's sexy.
Sure.
Who was the lead singer of the Bengals?
Susanna Hoffs and what's her name? I can't remember.
Yeah, well, she was another one.
Yeah, it's not. I'm thinking of the Go-Go's. I was about to say Belinda Carlisle.
Oh yeah,
Go-Go's,
Belinda Carlisle. Right? Yeah.
But yeah, music's sexy, man, and it's entertainment business is about. It's you want to be a triple threat. You got to be a great talent. You got to appeal to people and write good songs, and you kind of have to be decent looking, man. That's probably why I never made it.
What's going on, Rob?
But Vixen, man. Steve Vai married the bass player for Vixen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was a bass player in Vixen?
Yeah, man. She was in Vixen, dude.
I did not know.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and they've been together like 30 some odd years, man.
Long time. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Good for Vi, man.
I'm a fan of his. I'm on his Patreon, and he does 3 or 4 Zoom hangs a year.
Yeah, Steve's
Patreon,
a good dude, man.
Which is a lot of fun sitting in a room with a Zoom room, even with him and 100 other people for a couple hours. He's great.
I got to play a show in front of Vi in Knoxville, Tennessee, about 8 years ago, and
were you nervous?
I shouldn't say I got to play a show. I got to play a song. I won a contest, right? And no, I mean I wasn't nervous. I was playing my own song.
Okay.
And I had it down pat. I mean, it was like, I was playing to a track, which kind of is lame, but that's how they had it set up. And
it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and it was a good track, and I had it. All my life, ever since I've been playing, I've been trying to emulate Satriani, and I do tons of instrumental. All my outro music that I have on my channel, if you've watched the end, all the outro stuff is my instrumental stuff, and I've been recording instrumental things, and I really look up to Joe. Joe's my favorite instrumental guitar player. He's the only instrumental guitar player I can really listen to anymore because he's so lyrical. I love all of them. I love Vibe, but I just always go back to Joe. But
Joe has the Midas touch. I mean, even Vi said himself during the last meeting, somebody called him on it, and he uses a trem setter. Not a trem stop, but a setter. So it's got a spring and stuff with a bit of pushbacks, but still pushes back enough so that if you break a string, you can go on or whatever. And he said the only guy he knows who can play truly well with the floating trem is Joe. Joe is a master at playing with the floating trem. He doesn't,
Well, I'm a blues guy at heart. I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I'm in modern. I'm a Bonamassa fan. A lot of people hate Joe, but I love John. I like Joe Bonamassa, and I'm an Eric Johnson guy, and I love blues and Billy Gibbons, and a lot of I'm not like diehard. Like I'm not gonna say I listen to Muddy Waters and stuff like that, because I don't. I listen to the rock blues guys, but I like that about Joe's playing. But no, I wasn't nervous playing with Vibe. My biggest concern playing live is equipment failure. Are my chords going to be bad? Are my pedals going to mess up on me? Because you're dead in the water, right? So about 2 months before I knew I was going to be doing this thing with Steve, I went out and bought another a cheap pedal board. Not cheap, like garbage cheap, but just something inexpensive. And I put my whammy pedal, my Crybaby, and my tuner on it, and I bought new patch cables, and it was perfect. And so when I went out there, I knew I was going to be okay. And they had a JCM 2000, I think, set up for me. I'd have to bring anything. And Vi was still playing through the Legacy 3s. He had 2 Legacy 3s set up in stereo, and his pedal board was about 6 feet long, and it was cool. But no, that was my biggest thing. I was like, as long as I don't have gear failure, and when I got there, I had to get there several hours early, which was cool because I got to hang out with everybody, and Steve and I pretty much spent the whole afternoon and that night together and whatever. But
right on.
Very cool.
Thomas, his tech, I guess he's Norwegian or Swedish or something. I think his last name's Nordek. I think that's what his name was. Well, Thomas met me as soon as I went back. I was on stage. Thomas knew I was coming there, and I knew when Thomas grabbed my cord and he put it in the guitar for me, and he stood 1 feet from me the entire time I played. He was ready
to go.
He was right. That guy is phenomenal, and I felt like Steve Vai, man. I had Thomas standing there right by me, right? And I felt like I was invincible. I got the ultimate safety net sitting right here. If anything happens, and the side fills were massive on this stage, and the monitors, and no one was using in-ears. I don't know why, but I guess, I don't know why people weren't. That might have been right before that was right before all the Kempers and modeling stuff, really.
Right.
When you think about it, 2012, 2013, I think, right? Kempers have only been around, 5 or 6 years, maybe?
Never owned any of it except for a Helix, which I sold pretty quickly, so.
Yeah, but he was running all monitors and old school, which I like. But, yeah, so I wasn't nervous, but sorry to digress. I will, take you on a journey way off in the weeds anytime you give me
Keep on journeying, man. Keep on journeying.
That's what we're here for.
Sorry if I'm boring everybody watching this thing. I'm trying my best, man.
Good stuff. So can we go back a little bit, maybe talk about, you may have a video on it or something I haven't found, but you're here, so I'm going to ask. The start of your guitar journey,
Get the itch.
Where did you get the itch? Was it, you Marty5150, 5150's right in your handle there. Was it Eddie that did it, or was it just a conglomeration of all the artists that you were listening to?
Well, I was born in the early 70s. Okay, I'm dating myself, so I'm just over 50. I know I only look 26, but just kidding. So I'll make this as short as I can, because I don't want it to be too boring.
Stretch it out.
my parents were born in the 20s. Okay, my mom was born in 28, and my dad was born in 1924, and they're both deceased now. And I was born, you know, in right after 1970, and my parents were in their early 40s, mid 40s when I was born, and so I
Are you
had
the
to.
youngest?
Yeah, I was an accident baby. I was a pinhole baby, I guess. You know, on a hot summer night in the middle of upstate New York, I was conceived and born in January. But I was an
Thank you,
accident.
for that.
But my brothers, I have two brothers and two sisters, and they're 22 years older than me.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I grew up. They were like my uncles and aunts.
Yeah.
So I have nieces and nephews that are my age, a little older and a little younger, and a lot younger. I got great nieces now. It's insane. My family line is I got a huge family, but my point is how this relates to my music is I grew up with all my parents, Guy Lombardo records and Bing Crosby and all these weird records, man. Records used to be bizarre, dude. Back in like my parents would have like Hawaiian music, and it'd be on like a gold clear record. You could see through it, and it was just like Hawaiian lap steel stuff. Someone you never heard of before.
Belafonte in there somewhere too. With
Right, they had a
song.
record that had like the moon landing on it. It was a 45 that was like the first moon landing, and they put it on 45s and sold it to the public. I mean, I still have it somewhere.
Oh wow.
So, and then I inherited my brothers and sisters' records, which were Beatles and you know, late '60s stuff. So, and then some Led Zeppelin. My brothers were the rockers. My brothers play a little bit of guitar. They were in Vietnam. They were in the Navy during Vietnam. So when they came back from Vietnam, they brought back these acoustic guitars they bought in Italy, these EKOs, and they gave them to me. And I would bang on these acoustic guitars, and I'd play a little piano, because I loved music, but I wasn't trained, and I was just little, right? So,
Playing around.
so I think music is something that you're born to do. I think it's something that you just really are passionate about. It's almost like OCD. You sit down and you practice, and you want to figure out how to do stuff, and you just keep coming back to it. Anybody that's got kids out there and you want them to be a musician, you can't force your kid to be a musician. They're going to either like to do it or they're not. And it will eventually come to them if they want to do it. But don't force your kid to play an instrument if they don't want to, because they ain't going to practice. They got to really love to do it. And I just really love to make music. And I always had a song in my heart. I always had music playing. I had all these records I grew up with. And I diverse selection of music from the 60s and 50s and the 70s. And I would go through all the records and find the stuff that I thought swung or had, you know, whether it was big band music or it was rock and roll, and I would listen to that stuff all the time. It was my babysitter. I'd sit in front of these huge record players when they look like dressers, you know, and I'd surround myself with the speakers and just listen to it. And then in 1979 for Christmas, I got Ace Frehley's solo record for Christmas. My sister-in-law gave it to me. And I thought Ace Frehley was like some hot chick. I thought it was a girl. I was like, man, this is a pretty nice looking girl, you know.
You wouldn't think that now.
And I was 9. I was 9 years old, right? I think, and little did I know my 9-year-old self had a crush on Ace Frehley. But I soon found out Ace was a guy, which didn't weird me out. But I was like, okay, it's Kiss, and no internet, nothing. I didn't have any money, so I never had any Kiss records, and. I think when we're about 13, 14, a lot of us start understanding kind of who we are, and music starts to make sense. And that was when cassettes really started booming in the boom box. You had boom boxes and
dual cassette with the auto
dual
reverse.
cassettes, and then I was able to talk my parents into buying me like Love It for Sting and
8
Stay Hungry.
D-size batteries to put that thing in power mode.
Yes, I got Stay Hungry on cassette, you know, and that was my first concert. And then I got 1984, and I heard Eruption when I was about 9, and I thought it was a UFO. I didn't know what the hell it was, man. I was on a camping trip with a couple of my relatives, and someone was playing. One of my older nieces was playing Eruption. I'm like, this is the weirdest UFO music. I thought it was cool, and then when they played You Really Got Me, all I could fixate on was that screaming that David Lee Roth was doing. I was like, man, this guy's intense. Like, I knew they were like awesome, but I'm like, I couldn't get past Dave's, you know, oh! Yeah, I mean, It was. A lot of people don't talk about it, but damn, Dave's. Now they say he stole that from whatchamacallit.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
What's the? Yeah, well, I can't think of the name right now, but which is probably some truth to influence, but yeah, '84 came out, and then when MTV launched, I didn't have cable, but I'd get music videos on local networks, and that's when you could really get. That's when it really the bug hit me, right? And I was able to. I got into hair metal just like a lot of kids my age, and you know, it was Pyromania, and even though Pyromania really, I mean, you couldn't really consider it hair metal, but I went down the road deep, man. It was everything from Poison to Lord Tracy and Shotgun Messiah, and yeah, I never really checked out Skid Row too much. I thought Skid Row was
I guess that was
great.
more 90s anyway, so that was a little later.
Yeah, I like Skid Row, but you know, for some reason, I'm the kind of person that
Well, that Slave to the Grind album, I had that disc. It got a lot of rotation. That Monkey Business, that's a great song.
I fall hard for particular bands, and I really gravitated towards Van Halen and Def Leppard. Pyromania, I resisted Hysteria for a while because everybody liked it.
High and Dry's my favorite.
Yeah, High and Dry's killer.
On Through the Night.
On Through the Night. All that stuff's so good. But Pyromania was of that age, right?
Huge.
That time.
It exploded.
Yeah,
Went
so
viral, if you will.
And then I really the classic rock stations played a lot of Boston and REO and Foreigner, and I got really into Boston. I'm a huge Boston fan. I love Tom Scholz. So I've walked this line my whole life of where I listen to I like some 80s pop. Like I really dug I like a lot of the English British New Age stuff. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I love stuff like The Cure and you know, Depeche Mode and Howard Jones, and because that was when I was growing up, when I was 14, 15, 16, a lot of that British stuff was really cool because all the synthesizers were getting advanced, and that's why Eddie was influenced by it. People who are young today, really young, or maybe weren't quite in that era in the 80s, don't understand how impactful it was to finally get a multi-timbral synthesizer that could sound like a string section. We take it for granted now because we can load up a plugin on Pro Tools and we've got 8,000 killer synthesizers that are in stereo, and you can change anything you want. But back then you'd buy a Roland D10 or a DX7 or something, and it was cool, but it was really groundbreaking for people like Edward and myself as a young composer and musician. I wanted that capability in front of my fingertips. So I drew influences from the 80s metal, the British New Wave stuff, because I kind of thought they were sort of Beatle-esque. Beatles are my all-time favorite band. It's cliche to say. I love Beatles, but I thought the English pop bands were very Beatle-esque sounding, and their writing was cool. And I loved a lot of the classic rock from the 70s, the Cars. Elliot Easton, man, every guitar solo that dude plays is like complicated, perfect. ZZ, Cheap Trick was cool. All the old Pat Benatar stuff. I mean, the guitar player, I forget his name. Great stuff, man. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess that tells you how I got into it. I just got all these influences coming at once in the 80s were the great time to grow up because, when you go to a school, I'll say this, when you go to my high school, I grew up in a small town, and a few of us guys played guitar, and that was one thing I could do good. I was good at it, I wasn't great, but I was good. And it was like the first thing I could do in my life that I felt like, I can do this. No one can pick on me about this. I couldn't play basketball. I was okay. I wasn't big enough to play football, and I wasn't popular enough to be whatever, the star receiver or whatever. And guitar was the one thing that no one really could touch me on. There was a few guys in school that were my equals, and we were very competitive in a good and positive way.
Right.
And it drove us to like come in the next day and go, hey man, check out this Whitesnake lick, or whatever. And you'd want to like learn it because you didn't want that guy to be better than you, and then you
Right.
join, and then you wind up joining a band with him, and then and yeah, that was just the culture. It was competitive
Yeah.
and fun.
So you think that early acoustic guitars that you were given kind of directed you towards guitar because, why not keyboards or something like that? You just felt more comfortable because you had played around already on a guitar?
No, that was just the acoustic guitars just were my gateway towards like something that made sound. We had an old piano in the house that was out of tune, and I would play that piano even though it was out of key. I figured out in my ear, like, hey, if I hold these keys down, it sounds kind of jazzy. And what I was doing was finding the right notes to make like dominant 7 chords before I even knew what a dominant 7 chord was, or a major 7, or a 13 chord. So I was learning how to play that piano totally wrong because it was out of tune. So I was just making music, and it kind of just fed my enjoyment, my desire to like make noise. This is kind of dark, I guess, but my dad got cancer when I was 15, and he died when I was 17, and he had lung cancer, right? And I got my first electric guitar when I was 15 and a half, and I really started listening to the Beatles. Like Let It Be was my favorite Beatles record, and I had the Van Halen stuff and the metal. I was like I couldn't comprehend how to do it, so I was banging out these Beatle chords and learning how to play different inversions of chords, and that was where I started. And with my dad being sick, I just suppressed his illness, and I just drowned myself in my guitar.
Sanctuary, right?
Yeah, I just
Take me away.
I completely, I didn't like avoid him or my mom, but it was how I dealt with the agony of it, right? And it got me through. And fortunately, I mean, I didn't turn to drugs or alcohol. And so then my dad passed when I was a junior, in the summer of my junior year and in high school. And my senior year, I just didn't even look back. I was unfazed by it. It was sad, yes. It was, we dealt with it, but I just kept on. I dove deeper into guitar. It was probably unhealthy, and I think anytime you see somebody, like if you watch the show Hoarders, I look back at it now and I realize this, right? It's taken me years to unpack
Right.
why I'm the way I am, but you look at shows like Hoarders or My Strange Addiction or some of these weird shows. Everybody in those shows have had something in their life that usually that impact. No, most of the time that's something that they can't deal with, so they become like a compulsive spender, or they become an extreme cheapskate, or they just can't throw away anything, or because it's like an OCD type thing. And I went to music school because I didn't want to do anything else in my life. I'm like, all I want to do is learn. I just want to keep going. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be Paul McCartney. I'm going to be the next Paul McCartney. That's really, I mean, talk about setting the bar high. And then I was going to be Van Halen. I'm going to be the next Steve Vai, the next Van Halen, the Paul McCartney. And I just kept going. No one was going to tell me no. And I wasn't cocky or arrogant, but I was also
Determined.
Yeah, I was really determined. And it's weird because after I got out of college, I moved to Nashville, and I just started doing sessions. I did original bands and records, and I just kept pushing and through my 20s, and I mean, just killing myself. And when I finally had my first son, I'm divorced now, but my sons are 20 and 22. When I first had my first son when I was 31, I was like, I'm going to be a dad. And for the first time in my life, I took over the father role, and I stopped playing like live at that moment. I was not going to give up on music, but I had an original band that had a small independent deal, and it didn't go anywhere, and I was reevaluating my life, and I realized at that moment, that's when I realized I haven't looked back once since my dad passed away. And I have legitimately just killed myself. You know what it's like, playing gigs and driving hours and hours and hours and just not sleeping and just playing, and it ruined several relationships of mine with girls, and I thought it was them that was their problem. It was me. I mean, I was just selfish. I just didn't realize that it's just all I wanted to do was this freaking thing, you know. And
Yep.
and then when I became a dad, I was able to look back and go, you know, Jesus, man, I'm gonna be a dad, and that's when I realized that's really what drove me, is just suppressing that, and it became my identity. And I was able to finally come to terms with it. It was pretty tough it was weird to come to terms with something like that 14 years after it happens.
Wow. Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
And then ironically, you know, then after he was born, I wound up joining another project that wound up touring for a while, and I did an original band after that. But I wound up being able to harness that energy and those feelings, and you know, I did it for my family. I was gigging for my everything I did musically was to provide.
Yeah, more positive aspect.
Yeah, I turned it into a positive. So, I think, you know, if you're going to be successful to some level on an instrument or anything in life, you have to have some form of you have to be obsessed, man. It's like anybody that's really good in like business, like you see these financial experts, these people that are like CEOs and stuff, man. I would never want to have that life. I worked in corporate for a couple decades, and I don't do that anymore. And but man, that's a cutthroat thing. But they love it. They love that stuff, man. They live for it.
To reach the expert status, it comes down to the hours in the saddle.
Right, and I think to myself,
ultimately
man,
it
I'd much
comes down
rather
to.
spend that time playing guitar than learning how to,
Right.
you know, trade stocks. But maybe, of course, I don't have like a
with you
bunch of
there.
Lamborghinis and stuff.
Well, that's all right. You got a bunch of amps and stacks back there, so you're doing good.
Yeah,
So-
they never sell
Bring the
anything.
smiles.
Yeah. So you said that you moved to Nashville. How long ago was that, and what area did you grow up in?
I grew up in Ithaca. Ithaca, New York is in the Finger Lakes region. I was real close to Cornell University, and you know, Beato's from Ithaca. I found out, I was watching a Beato video today. I'm like, Beato, he was in Ithaca College, man. He was up there when I was kicking around.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are from Ithaca in that area, but I grew up near Ithaca, and that helped me learn how to play guitar too. Because first of all, Ithaca is full of hippies. It still is, and you know, it's peace, love, happiness. Let's rock and roll, and you know, that's how my brothers were and my sisters, and it was just a culture. And so I moved here in '92, and I've lived here longer than I lived up there.
Yeah.
So I got out of school, and I had $300, a Ford Ranger, and a Les Paul Studio.
What else do you need, right?
And my
Right,
my roommates in college, I had a half stack in my closet at college. Everybody else had clothes. Everybody had clothes, man, and I had a half stack and like 5 T-shirts in my closet.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. In a stereo, and I had my Les Paul Studio that my mom bought me when I was a senior. She bought it for me my senior year, and it was black. And eventually, the guitar got stolen, which sucks.
no.
But yeah, shit happens. But you know, it's I moved here in '92. Man, my roommates were all going to grad school. They were going to be like accountants or whatever, going to law, and they were already applying for grad schools or positions. And they said to me halfway through my senior year, they're like, "Well, what are you going to do when you graduate?" Right? Because they knew I was a theory and a composition major. I said, "I'm moving to Nashville." They're like, "What are you going to do in Nashville?" I said, "I'm going to be
Music.
I'm a musician, man. I'm gonna be a rock and roll
Rock
star.
star.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
I'm gonna just." And they were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, right." And so, you know, I haven't done too bad for myself.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
playing. I'm still
Yeah.
kicking. I haven't died yet, man. I didn't join the 27 Club or anything.
Right.
Still smiling. Every day in
Absolutely.
paradise.
Yeah, man.
For some reason, I was thinking that you had a small stay in the Atlanta area where I'm at. Did you?
No, I mean, a lot of people think that in 2000 and around 2002, right after I had my first son, I told you I had that come to Jesus meeting with myself about I'm a dad, Well, I have
your crap
like
together,
I've been
yeah.
suppressing this crap about my dad dying forever, and now I'm the dad. Now I gotta be the man. And well, so I was like, I'm not gonna play guitar anymore. I'm not gonna play any bands. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, I gotta get a band. Like legitimately, I mean that's the true story. And so I was working a regular job, and I went out on lunch to this little music store, and those little things that you when people would put up a little like musicians wanted, you'd rip the little tag off the bottom with the phone number, right? So I saw this sign that said wanted lead guitar player for metal band, disco band, 80s band. And I'm like, well, I got the metal covered. And I hate disco, man. I hate disco. And 80s I like 80s all right, as long as I don't got to play Jesse's Girl all the time or something. I'm cool with it, right? Summer of '69. And so I tore the thing off and stuffed it in my pocket. And I called the number, and it was the drummer. And that was an Atlanta band. It was that's where my ties to Atlanta are. But the drummer and the bass player lived in Nashville, and the singer was living in Tampa.
Wow.
And his name's Jason. Jason sings for Slippery When Wet now. Slippery When Wet's still a band. And we were doing a thing called Stone Cold Fox Entertainment. And SCF was a disco band, full-on disco. We had tracks. We were playing the tracks before people knew tracks were out there, right? And like horns and violins and all that. Yeah. But we were a freaking killer band, dude. I mean, it was like, I get pissed when people say, oh, these bands play with the tracks. I'm like, fuck that, man. You play to a click track, it will make a man out of you. You play to, your show is 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 7 seconds long, and this is your spot to play a solo, and here's where you come in, and you got to be on pitch, and you got to be here, and it's a show, and you got to dance, and you got to wear this outfit, and you got to, everything's got all these parts. That is entertainment. And you're playing live. You're not miming anything. Yep. But we played the tracks in that disco band, and we had a few tracks in the 80s band, like when we play some of that real synthy stuff. There'd be little synthy stuff going on, but man, we were playing. Yeah. Well, I joined that band, and we did shows that were 5-6 hours away every weekend, every single weekend. Yeah. Right, for like almost 10 years, man. We were booked solid, like boom, boom. They pay for your hotel, they pay for your food, they would do like your drinks. It was killer. The money was good. And about 2 years into that, Jason we'd go to Sticky Fingers on a Saturday. We'd be in Greenville, South Carolina or something, and we'd be peeling ourselves out of bed. And it'd be lunchtime, and we'd go get like chicken fingers somewhere at Hooters or Sticky Fingers or whatever, where we were. And we do this circuit. We do like the same 50 places. It was wash, rinse, repeat, and people knew us. And he'd always get asked, man, can I get your autograph? And he's thinking, man, this is so weird. People want my autograph. I play in a disco and metal band, and we wore the big wigs. We were in full costume. He knew Ralph in Steel Panther, which was called Metal School at the time. Right. Metal Shop. Then it became Metal School, and he knew Ralph, and they weren't Steel Panther. They weren't even that big yet. So we took him and Ralph used to do disco stuff together called Boogie Nights. I'm not even going to go down that path. But anyway, it's a long story. So Jason was like, we got to do this metal thing, like Metal Shop is doing out here, and we call it White Leopard Crew, and we did the 80s thing, and we would do Friday nights 80s metal, and Saturday nights was 2 hours of disco. But we all had stage names, we had different costumes. My 80s name for the metal band was JJ Stingray. My disco name was Silky Johnston, and then I forgot what, I think Todd Camino was my 80s pop. I had a mullet wig, and this is before people were really doing tribute bands. Like, honestly, I mean, there's so many of them out there now, which is cool. But so we wound up, Jason wound up moving to Atlanta, and our bass player moved to Atlanta, and our drummer stayed in Nashville. But so the band wound up being hubbed out of Atlanta, because when you're in central part of the United States, you can do Virginia and Florida and Alabama and Louisiana, and you can do a lot of stuff in Georgia. Atlanta's huge. You can come up to Tennessee, Kentucky, and if you're within like 5-6 hours, you can go out and hit Mobile, Alabama, and then come back through and hit Montgomery and Huntsville, and then come home. Or whatever. Do Hattiesburg, Mississippi on your way down, then hit Baton Rouge, hit New Orleans, party real hard in New Orleans, and come home almost dead. That's what we do every week.
Yep.
And it was great fun. And so he was getting hit up for these autographs, and Dave Chappelle mistook him for Bon Jovi. We finally realized people thought he was Bon Jovi from It's My Life, because It's My Life was huge at that time.
Gotcha.
He looked just like the dude, man.
He looked the part, huh?
He wasn't trying to. He really wasn't trying to. But then once he found out, he was like, man, let's do this band. He would talk to me about it. Finally, I was like, okay, let's do it. And so we put it together. We put together a 2-hour, 10-minute show of the Crush tour. We did the exact Crush tour. I went out and had to have a bunch of Hughes and Kettner shirts made so I looked like Richie Sambora. I'd have my hair cut in kind of a mullet, because Sambora was kind of rocking a mullet, which that sucked, walking around with that haircut during the week, Had to wear a hat.
Yeah.
And then he started dyeing his hair a certain way and getting it razor cut. And it sucks, because you got to go out and you got to look at, halfway through the tour, they wind up changing their clothes, and you got to study those guys, man.
You got to do the part.
Right, and plus, we were. I'm not bragging, but that our first version of Slippery When Wet, the band has changed many times. They're still good, but we built that band, and that band, we were crushing it, and I had to walk away from it. It was time.
Mm-hmm.
No bad feelings, and one of my good buddies took over for me, who then eventually he did it for like 6 years and passed it on to someone else that's doing it now. And I can't believe they're still doing it 20 years. That band's been around for 20 years, man.
Wow.
I could never play Bon Jovi stuff for 20 years. Richie Sambora couldn't even play it for 20 years.
Yeah.
So they're based out of Atlanta. Sorry, I digress on this story, but that's where the Atlanta thing. That's where the Atlanta thing comes from. Is the Slippery connection, and I'm still like part of that family, man. I'll tell you something. I probably shouldn't say this. I'm not trying to spread dirt, but Slippery had all their shit stolen last weekend. They were in Jacksonville, because I'm still tight with those guys, man. We're brothers to the end, man. And they were in Jacksonville, I think last Friday. All their stuff got stolen. Their trailer, or not their trailer. They had their stuff in a van or something outside a hotel. And
oh wow!
They lost everything, and then they went to they went to Wilmington the next night, and they had to like borrow gear. So, I hope they had insurance, but hopefully they found the people that did it. Chances are they won't. Once you get if you ever had gear stolen, that stuff never shows back up again,
it's
man.
Pretty well gone.
Yeah, you can kiss it goodbye, man.
Yeah.
So
wow,
I'm thinking of
some pretty popular bands too, right? Like really big bands lose like trucks, trailers full of gear.
Yeah, it's funny when you hear these guitar.
Sell that?
Yeah, it's funny. Some of these big guitar players, you hear like 20 years later, they're reunited with like Steve Vai just got reunited with his Swiss cheese guitar.
Yeah, some guy found it in an attic or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't Jimmy Page get reunited with like his Black Beauty or something? His back before Zeppelin, like he had a black Gibson stolen. I think he got that back recently. Someone correct me if I'm
Didn't Cantrell have
wrong.
a guitar?
Cantrell had the gold Ernie Ball Music Man, I believe, that was stolen. Or the EVH model that Eddie gave to him.
Yeah, it sucks, man. Especially when you have, it's only material things, but when you have a sentimental attachment, I had a couple of guitars stolen in the past, and some of them they weren't worth really anything, but to me,
you put 500 hours into a thing, you get attached to it,
Yeah, I lost my number one Warmoth. I had a Warmoth that had a through body neck. That before I think Warmoth got sued in the early '80s by Fender. And they couldn't manufacture guitars anymore. They could just sell parts. But this was a through body neck Warmoth soloist. They had an old 80s Floyd Rose on it, two zebra humbuckers and volume tone, and it was great. And it was a Super Strat. It was it was kind of like a Charvel, I guess. And I love that guitar, man. I bought it in '92 when I moved here. I sold a Japanese Stratocaster for it, and my blood was in that guitar. Like I had worn the nitro off of this part of it. It was bare wood, and it's playing. And I played with Slippery thousands of shows with that thing in my original band, and it got stolen. I'm like, damn it, man.
Had some history to it.
Yeah,
So,
I can't ever replace that guitar. I bought a lot of guitars. I still.
what do you think feels worse, having a guitar stolen or having a guitar ran over with your car?
Stolen.
Yeah.
Stolen. It's like death. It's like
Yeah,
death. If you ever lose someone, we all have, when they die, they're gone,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing you can do about it. And so when you run over a guitar, like I ran over my acoustic, it's gone, man. I don't even care anymore. It's done. Like it was heartbreaking. I dealt with it.
Yeah.
And some people
Do you
can't.
still have the carcass around?
Yeah, I still. Got
I'm
it.
thinking Viking funeral. You got to load that thing up with some tissue and some flammable fluids, and go down to a creek or a river or a lake. And
That's a good YouTube idea, right?
I was gonna say he's thinking about content there.
But but when you get a guitar stolen, it's like I don't know if any of you guys have ever been divorced or not. But when you get a divorce is painful. Even if, like in my case, well, I won't even go there. But if you got a situation where someone has truly done you wrong and you question yourself and you feel really bad, you carry that pain with you for a long, long time. And if you got a guitar out there,
cake on Sundays,
and you just never can get rid of the person, man. You can't ever. It's like if you got kids with someone, or you see them in the store or online, or you got freaking Facebook memories and stuff you thought you deleted. I mean, that's why I don't post any of that crap anymore, because I'm like, I don't want to be reminded of anything like this. Like if it's something bad or whatever, I just don't even remind me about it. But so I think having something stolen is worse than it just getting destroyed, because I know that Martin's never coming back. I just have to come to terms with it on my own and deal with it, right?
The stolen guitar, you're always thinking, I wonder where it is. I hope that somebody's taking care of it. Yeah, that
No,
kind of
a
thing.
case of beer and the handle rips out and the thing hits the ground and smashes. It's over.
Right. I still love that guitar. I still love that. I wish that guitar was still with me.
Yeah.
Or where is it? Or we'll hope it's not being hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
Or,
Gotta send it to Valhalla, brother.
There you go.
that's right, man.
Send her off.
I got a bonfire. I should just bonfire it one summer night. That could be like the end of my next video when I do a stack out on the porch, like do the stack and then do the, that'll be like, play a little song before the bonfire.
Some kind of a funeral march.
And coming up with all these YouTube ideas. So you've got your Wolfgang in your hand. I know you've had that for just a few weeks or so.
I had to fix it.
How you gelling with it?
I love it, man. I got rid of my I had a purple one. It was like a pinky purple one that sounded good. I just never could bond with it because I just didn't like the maple neck. And this one is I sold that and wound up getting this for a couple $100. So I got a good deal. It always makes you feel good when you got a good deal on something, right? And I love the carved top on these. What's weird about this one, for those that didn't see my video, this one's got a floating tremolo, which we all know Eddie didn't have.
Yep.
A floater, And a kill switch, right?
Yep.
So somebody had this professionally routed out. They had to take the D-tuner off of it.
Yep.
Because if you pulled back with a D-tuner, it would not be good because it would hit the body.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I really never use a D-tuner. I've got it on my EVH Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It's a great invention, but I mean, the only time I ever really use it's when I go to play Unchained.
Right.
and like my cover bands that I play with, we never play Unchained, so I just kind of jam on it in this room I'm in right now, and it's cool. I don't do a lot of drop D riffage. I don't know why I don't. I think it's really cool though. Maybe I should explore it more.
You need some more Alice in Chains in your life.
Yeah.
I know I love it.
Every guitar that I have with a Floyd has a D-tune on it because I have to have it. I do a lot of the original stuff that I used to do was in drop D. So big time necessity for me, yeah.
Yeah, I totally respect that, man. I'm not putting it down. It's just, I guess, for so many years playing before it was invented, it's not really something I really cultivated as part of my style,
Right.
I don't even think Eddie really used it a ton, did he? I mean, there were certain songs he did, but it wasn't like it was. How many songs? Off the top of our head, what songs can we think of that had a detuna? There's probably 50 of them, and I'm like gonna prove myself not unworthy of being a Van Halen.
Let's see. I'm sure everybody in the chat is going to start typing them in. But
what are the detuna Van Halen songs besides
Unchained,
Drop Dead Legs?
Drop Dead Legs, 5150.
Well, 5150 had a low A string on it, I think, didn't it?
No, that was wasn't that good
Spanked?
Enough?
Oh, that's good enough. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm thinking good enough.
Yeah, and then Spanked, I think, was the baritone guitar, which I think had an A bass string. What other Drop D stuff?
Hear about it later.
Hear about it later.
Is Drop
Somebody
D.
says Dirty Movies was Drop D.
I think Little Guitars is tuned to Drop D. Little Guitars, but it's not in D. It's tuned like it's in Drop D.
Mm-hmm.
Because he does some of those weird, chord voicings that you'd play like an F, but it's like Drop D. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. Going from memory.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember them all. Amsterdam, John says.
Yeah,
Drop D.
Amsterdam. Don't Tell Me.
There you go.
I think Don't Tell Me's in Drop D. Or
Is
it might
that
be
Drop D?
Either that or C sharp.
Yes, it is Drop D. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a few.
Yeah, so I mean, he used it, but the point of it is that did he use it all the time? No, it was a tool, and Eddie recognized
different guitar for each song, right?
Yeah, and Eddie, it's just like he didn't use the TransTrem on everything. TransTrem's probably on 6 tunes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Summer Nights and Get Up and Fire in the Hole isn't. We're talking TransTrem now, but there's what's that song off for Unlawful? Pleasure Dome's a TransTrem, right?
Pleasure Dome. Yep.
Me Wise Magic.
Me Wise Magic. Yeah.
Talk about I think Me Wise Magic and Can't Get This Stuff No More. I don't think they get enough love. I know that the fans love those songs, but man, Me Wise Magic is a badass song.
Whoops. Hang on a second.
And I don't know how to play it, so I'm going to learn something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But,
man, I gotta learn that. I don't have a TransTrem, so it wouldn't sound the same.
Well, you're not that far. You can come borrow it. It's up one step or whatever notch that is. Yeah. But that I'm getting all flustered here with all this. All right, so
But
that's
it
the
sounded
thing.
good. It sounded good, yeah.
Well, thanks. That's kind of the thing that with those songs, I started off the show saying that, why have it sound exactly like and playing all. But you know what? These TransTrem songs that he played, they just don't sound the same without it,
No, they don't. It's got to have the same pitch.
Yeah.
He wrote the song and the riff around the TransTrem.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be that way, right?
And wasn't many people that did that. Barry Gilmore's one of them. Did a couple
Right.
of songs with a TransTrem. Who else?
Yep.
I want to ask Vi about that. If I ever get my hand question answered during one of those Zoom meetings, I'm like, Steve, did you ever do a TransTrem?
Ever try a
Seems like
TransTrem?
someone
Yeah.
with your knowledge would be able to utilize something like that quite a
Yeah,
bit.
it's kind of weird. Vi never really. Maybe because Eddie
He
kind
just
of
does it with the Floyd anyways.
did Holdsworth use a TransTrem?
Holdsworth did, yep.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yep. Yeah, he played a lot of I think the Klein guitars is what he used with the TransTrem on them.
Yeah.
But, I've watched, you were mentioning Sammy Hagar earlier, and, when he would play with the Circle or any of the many variations that he plays with. And when they would play Summer Nights, and he was transposing it differently on a regularly tuned guitar, I was just like, no, it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's, and something about Well, I mean, I know your guitar. I don't know if yours was original or not, but those original Steinbergers also have. There's a tone to it when you hear it on 5150. Of course, they added a lot of, as Eddie called it, jape.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie called it jape, right? Which is the effects, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't realize that don't record in studios or aren't musicians. So much of a tone is shaped
Mm-hmm.
in mixing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of times you just play clean, you just play dirty, and then you just add that stuff later so you can control it
Right.
and manipulate it. I know Eddie tried to get his tone on, especially those early records. It's just straight amp, right, with a little reverb or whatever. But all the
Yeah.
effects he would use was on the board right there, like phaser and stuff. But those are Steinberger guitars. You know, the chorus that they used on them, and it was almost like that was the beginning of Eddie's wet, dry, wet aha moment.
Mhm.
Like, you know, I can get this real spatial thing going on, and but man, those Steinbergers sound. It's got a cool sound, man.
It's a very, very distinct tone that it has, for sure.
I got a cheap Steinberger Spirit, and that thing even kind of sounds like it.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't have a TransTrem on it. It looks like one, but it ain't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it even sounds like a Steinberger. It's got Steinberger pickups in it.
Yeah. Got the EMG, or the active pickups in it, or passive?
They're passive. There's no battery in it. Not that I remember. I need to like open it up, but there's not a whole lot to that guitar, as you
Mhm.
know. It's about the size of a sandwich,
Mhm. Yeah,
a
they're
big
tiny.
sandwich.
Yeah. So you got a lot of gear back there. How many different amps do you got? I see 4, 5. Is that
Yeah,
that's a PV widget there, isn't it?
That's a Wiggy. Yeah, it's
Wiggy.
a PD Wiggy. Yeah. That Wiggy is. I just think it looks cool. I found it for close to nothing on Marketplace. Like
Very
legit.
retro.
Yeah,
Like one of those old stoves, you know.
Yeah, I like antiques. I love antiques and old stuff. Probably because I was raised by like ancient parents, and it reminds me of my childhood. Everything in the house was like old, you know. It was like legit. Like everything my parents had was like World War II era stuff.
Oh wow.
And right, God, I wish I would have kept some of that stuff. Probably worth some money, but it's cool. It looks like an old car. You know, it lights up, and I got the Legacy, the Steve Vai Legacy, as you can see there, and
Is that a Hughes and Kettner?
it's a Hughes and Kettner duotone,
Okay.
and it's 100 watt. That's a good little amp. And then I got my main amp is my Freeman BE 100.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a 74 Marshall MK2. I call it a plexi because technically it kind of is a plexi, but anytime I say that, the Marshall police come after me and online. They're like, it's not a plexi. It's got metal on the front. I'm like, well, I call it a plexi because it's got 4 inputs. Man, I know it's an MK2 50 watt, but it's the same thing. They stopped making plexiglass fronts on amps after 69 because it was too expensive, and Marshall was mass producing metal fronts. It's the same amp.
Same stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like if you do any kind of tech work, if you do a video on like, here's how you tighten a truss rod on YouTube. Anytime you do something techy, someone's gonna chime in and say, well, you know,
that's not how you're supposed to do that.
You should always loosen it a quarter turn before you tighten it, because you're gonna. And it's like, you know,
You're facing north. You need to be facing west
like,
when
it's
you're
okay.
tuning the truss rod.
I try not to let that stuff bother me. It really doesn't, but sometimes I'm just like, man, some people got nothing better to do. But but you can't see. But on top of this Marshall, I can move my camera, I guess. But on top of this Marshall, I got a Marshall 30 watt Artist. It looks just like a little plexi, but it's I got it when that was my first amp. It was my first Marshall. I got it when I was like 18.
Oh wow.
I was using a Galen Kruger 250 ml for the longest time, but I bought it with my tax refund money. I paid $213 for it. That was what my tax refund was when I was 18 from working at a lumber yard. I was really making lots of money. But I still have that amp when I was from high school, senior year in high school.
Wow.
And
cool.
yeah, it's cool. It's a Marshall 30 watt Artist. It's like a tube and a valve amp. It sounds cool. I was gonna go see Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, and I was like, well, if I buy these feel-good tickets, I won't have enough money to buy this Marshall. And this is a true story. And I said, what would Mick Mars do?
By
And
the
I
amp.
was like, Mick Mars would buy this amp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always get to see Motley Crue. And man, then I did see Motley Crue for like, I don't think I got to see Motley Crue until like 2002 or something. And then they were terrible.
Right.
It was like awful. Vince came out dressed up like a preacher at the end of the set
man.
and was singing Anarchy. It was not good.
Well,
But
that
anyway,
was the first tour that I saw Motley Crue was Dr. Feelgood. Lita Ford opened for them, so
yeah.
I can let you know it was a really, really good show.
I know, man. I know. And where I grew up in upstate New York, you know, we got all the metal bands, and I miss Feel Good. But I'm glad I got the amp, and then I got a little Mesa Boogie, a DC5, on top of that Friedman, which looks like a Mark V, but it ain't a Mark V. You know, it doesn't have all the cool little switches, and you know, I don't know a lot about boogies, but it's a great sounding amp. I mean,
Cool.
it sounds like Metallica, so.
Now
But
you've got a lot of speaker cabinets back there as well. Do you have a certain speaker that you prefer over others?
The these Marshalls, these are 74s that came with this, and they got the greenbacks in them.
Okay.
And the Friedman through these speaker cabinets are it's excellent.
Just glorious, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
the Friedman cabinet. You can't see it. It's like I'm trying to move out of the way. I got the Friedman bottom that's behind me. It's the actual BE bottom. It's got vintage 30s and greenbacks in it, and
Nice.
that's a nice cabinet too. That one sounds really nice. It's very refined feeling, but man, these 74s, no joke, man. With this Friedman through those 74 cabinets, it sounds like Fair Warning. There's
Right on.
a fat switch on the back of that Friedman that's really, or a saturation switch that gives you that brown sound, brings the volume of the amp down a little bit.
Yeah.
When you turn that fat switch on and run through those 74s, I mean it's convincingly Fair Warning, and
Nice.
I don't know if I don't know much about speakers, but I know that greenbacks are great. And I know that speakers that have been worn in and played for years have a certain tonal quality to them. And I
Seasoned.
never ever would have believed it. I've owned these cabinets now for about 3 years. That stack, I bought it from a buddy of mine who's a drummer, oddly enough. And I just bought it because I got a good price on it. And I thought, well, this will retain value one day. It'll be worth something. But I started gigging one of those cabinets, and I was just like, holy smokes. It's the real deal, man. Probably new greenbacks probably would sound very similar, but dude, those cabinets have been around the world. I think this stack used to be owned by Ram Jam that sang Black Betty.
Oh, really?
That's the pedigree. Probably with that pedigree, they're probably worth less money now. You know, now that they're like I couldn't sell them, but
See, that's a pretty cool riff. That
talk about a video. Have you ever seen the video for Black Betty? Hey, if no one's seen the video for Ram Jam's Black Betty, you owe yourself later on tonight, you know, take some edibles, wait about an hour, and turn that video on. You'll be.
Isn't it just like the band kind of standing in a half semicircle and they're just playing?
They're out in the yard set up. They got their
Yeah.
amps, and it looks like the grass needs to get mowed.
Yeah.
It looks like someone didn't mow the grass, and the singer's got this dishwater brown hair that's kind of bangs her to his eyes, and he's it's kind of mulleted. It's kind of like that haircut that you couldn't really commit to the long hair, but it's kind of long. And those glasses that you wear, these kind of look like them. They used to change when you're outside. They would change to like sunglasses.
Yeah.
Kind of like Rockford Files or something. So the singer and the guitar player's a singer. He's got those glasses on, and I don't think the drummer's wearing a shirt. He's really skinny, and the bass player's just, thumping away. And there's a middle section. A lot of people don't know that there's a whole middle section of that song that's like a solo that goes on for like a minute and a half. Man, they just go off on this trippy, weird thing. They cut it out on the radio.
Yeah.
I think anybody driving their car, if that came on, they'd be like, "What the hell is this?" Kind of like Argent. If you ever heard the song "Hold Your Head Up" by Argent, which I think is the worst song of all time. I've got the worst song of all time list. A friend of mine and I, we always text each other like, add this to the list. But the reason I have that song on my worst songs of all time list is the keyboard solo in the middle of Hold Your Head Up. It goes on for like 2 minutes, and it's really experimental, and it sounds like a baseball game.
Right.
And
This sounds like you're working on the anti-Beato channel, where he has like the greatest songs. You can have that as content.
makes this song
the
suck?
worst.
No.
What makes this song bad?
No, I won't. Well, no, there's a guy actually. I watch. His name's, I think it's Pat Finnerty. His last name's Finnerty, and he has a song. He has a thing called "What Makes a Song Stink," and he does like Weezer and he's awesome. Have you ever seen this guy?
No.
Anybody out there that's watching, look up "What Makes a Song Stink," and I think it's Pat Finnerty is the guy's name. He's got some of the funniest videos, and his Weezer. He's a Weezer fan, but he picks on he picks on Weezer on this one video, and it's delicious, man. His videos are awesome, but yeah, I try not to do videos like that. I want a positive community. I told you earlier, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to make anybody
Well,
upset.
I mean, if it's done in a humorous way,
that's true. That's true.
So I don't think that would be too bad.
But yeah,
Kind of a parody kind of thing.
But yeah, Hold Your Head Up, man. The keyboard solo and Hold Your Head Up is just, I mean, it's vomit inducing. I can't stand 70s prog rock. Like I'm revealing a lot about myself that's negative. I gotta complain about stuff on these live streams, but I really can't deal with it, man. Like I don't like yacht rock too much either.
Mm-hmm.
People will destroy me for this, but I'm not a huge Steely Dan fan. I like some Steely Dan, but I don't. I love Boston, but I can't listen to like Styx, and I can't do like early Yes stuff, and I just don't. I don't know. I think it's a little bit gratuitous, and I don't think it's as good as some people said it was.
I figured that you had to be a pretty good, or well, not big, but at least a huge Boston fan when I saw that you had purchased like the Rockman stuff.
Yeah.
To kind of experiment with that.
Yeah, I guess you could consider Boston a prog rock band in a way, because they did stuff like Long Time and all those keyboard solos and stuff. But I think what separates them from some of the bands is I think they still made it commercially viable.
It's funny. I heard a Boston song on the radio the other day. I was driving around for work, and I think it was More Than a Feeling. And you're listening to it, and you go, "Yeah, I can really hear that Rockman sound." Now that I know what it is. Back in the day, he was just like, "That sounds really cool."
Well, he recorded that stuff. It wasn't a Rockman, but what he did was he dialed in. It's almost like a half-cocked wah sound. Like he dialed in. He probably put attenuators and something in front of his Marshalls, and he had his Crybabies and his EQ notched, and he had that tone. And it took him forever to dial that stuff in, because before we had plugins and modelers and stuff, you had to mic placement and tubes and amplifiers and wattage and all this. It was a science to get that sound. This, and that's why records used to take forever to produce, because they would take forever doing that stuff. And so when he developed the Rockman, he just turned it on. He's like, boom. And that's why when you get a Rockman and you go to turn the chorus on or something like that, there's usually like 2 or 3 settings. It's because Tom was like, well, that's the sound.
Yeah, that's
like
all I need.
You don't need to tweak this, guys. Like, trust me, this is exactly the sound. It's like, which I wish nowadays you could really adjust some of it, but it's, no, don't get me wrong. I got them right here. There's a lot of, I can't get them on camera. They're like plugged in, but there's a lot of settings and stuff on them, but they're pretty foolproof. It's either, push this button on and it's on or off.
Yeah.
And notch it this way or that way, and they don't make a lot of changes. They're minute little things.
It certainly has its own sound for sure.
Yeah, I've heard when I posted that video, a lot of people said, man, they use the Rockman on Countdown to Extinction. I'm like, I don't think they did, but maybe they did. And then some
Isn't
people
it
were.
Hysteria? Isn't that supposedly?
Yeah, now you can hear it on Hysteria, right?
Yeah.
You can hear it, and there's other bands that supposedly use. Some people the other day told me ZZ Top used them on Eliminator, and I'm like, no, ZZ Top did not use Rockman's.
What's up, fruitcake? No, you're not quite early, a little late, but that's okay. You got the replay. So
You haven't missed much, man. I've just bored everybody.
no, this has been great stuff. So anybody in the chat, if you got any questions or anything, just put a big Q and then write out your question, and we'll get to them in a few. So how many guitars do you have? A lot of times see you working on different stuff, and do you have like a PO box or something people can send you stuff to? Because somebody needs to get you a little guitar neck rest instead of that styrofoam thing that your dog chewed.
The cork.
Or is that kind of a signature thing on your channel?
It's a cork neck stand. It still works. It still works okay. It's an actual neck stand.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a thing. It's like an inside joke. There's a few people that we laugh about it. Even some members of my channel, they'll say, "Hey man, why do you put that guitar on a rock?" I'm like, "It's not a rock. It's a cork." So and then I made a really lame guitar neck rest. It's in some of my videos. I intentionally made this really corny neck rest with like washcloths and stuff, just to be. I've got a weird sense of humor, man.
Yep.
But
I dig it.
Well, we can certainly pick up on that for sure, and it's appreciated. It's appreciated.
Man, I got a lot of guitars. I've lost count. Man, I've got something like 80.
Oh wow,
85 maybe.
That's quite a few.
76.
You still have the Murphy Labs in rotation? Are you still got the honeymoon going with that one?
Yeah, man. My Murphy Labs are
I
the
love that
best.
guitar.
My Murphys are the best guitars that I own, period. My R8 and my R0 are... They literally destroy everything that I've got. Except my Frankie. The Frankie is right up there with it. I don't know what it is about the Frankie. It's not because it's striped. It's... The Frankie's just it kicks holy ass, man. I don't know. I'd like to try somebody else's Frankie. In fact, Eddie Ojetta's coming back to my house in a week. He's got a Frankie. He lives kind of close to me. He's got a Frankie, and he had someone put a push pull pot on it,
so he could use the neck.
Yeah, and I'm not down with that. But he doesn't like it, and it's not a low resistance pot. So he's gonna bring his Frankie out here, and I ordered him a pot on Amazon, and I'm just gonna put it in there for him, and I'm gonna test his out and see what his sounds like. But it's weird because the pickup's the same that's in these guitars, and
yeah,
I love how this sounds. This thing sounds great too. But a lot of my guitars, I've got about 20 of my guitars are guitars I built. So I mean, I don't have like all expensive guitars. I got a lot of Les Pauls, but I've put together a lot of tellies. I've got like 9 or 10 Telecasters, and only one of them's a Fender. The others are kits that I go out and buy like a nice body. I'll find a body for $70, and I'll look and find me a Canadian maple neck for $60. Something that's a good deal, and I'm patient and I'll stick it together. And if it's nice, I'll keep it. And it's before COVID, about a couple years before COVID, I started, just building stuff as a hobby, and I fell in love with it. But they're a lot more affordable now to build than they used to be.
Yeah.
So if you make a mistake, you don't break the bank. But
yeah.
So a lot of my guitars are guitars that I made. I've got a couple Van Halen guitars, 2 or 3 Van Halen. I got like a Diver Down guitar I made. I've got an OU812 guitar. I've got an Unshark. It's like a fake shark that I didn't cut out. I got one of those. I call it the Unshark.
Yeah.
I got like 7 or 8 homemade Telecasters that are nice. I put like bare knuckles in them, or nice pickups that I've found secondhand. I've got a Relic Strat that I built. I got a fake Les Paul, a pink fake Les Paul that I put together. I got 2 other fake Les Pauls I put together. I got living in Nashville. You get buddies. Like I got a buddy that if I ever need a Gibson pickup, I just go, hey dude, I need 2 burst buckers, and I just go to his house. He's like, here, because I'm like, thanks. Not everybody can find deals like that. I'm not like boasting or bragging,
Right.
but I don't pay a lot for my shit, man. I find stuff, I just granted I've got some nice guitars that I bought, but I'm kind of like a picker. I find the guitars and
put it together, something that works for you.
My R0, I feel unworthy for having this R0 because Murphy Labs are freaking outrageous. I think they're overpriced.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Okay? I think they're overpriced, man. But that's it. Someone that works out there would say no, they're not because we put so many man hours in them. But put this into perspective. So over like 4 years, I go to pawn shops, and I bought a Epiphone SG Custom. I paid like $275 for. I sold it to Guitar Center for $400.
Oh wow.
I bought a Mexican pink Strat from ZZ Sounds. I paid like $325 for it, a pink shell pink. I sold it to Guitar Center for $470 on a trade. I bought a blue made in Mexico Strat from Casino Guitars, North Carolina. Cheap. I sold it and made $100 on it, But see, over the years, I just over like 3 years, for my channel, especially over the last year and a half, I try to find cheap stuff, and then I'll try to sell it. And I try to buy, if I can buy, my rule of thumb is buy something for what you can get out of it. I try to, and I wanted that Murphy Lab, so I had about 9 guitars that I'd bought over the last 3 years that were collecting dust.
Yeah.
I just didn't use them that much. I thought I would, and I got them relatively cheap. And if you spend $300 here, like 3 months, and 3 months later you spend another $300, and then 4 months later you spend $400. Well, now you spent $1,000, and you got 3 guitars. And if you can flip them for $1,500, well, that's not bad. Or even if you get out of them even, and you had enjoyment out of them for a year, and you get out of them for the same price, you just basically saving your money, leaving it in the bank, right? But so I wanted this Murphy Lab, and so I just sold a bunch of stuff because things were getting. We've got a lot of guitars, and I don't miss them, but that's how I got that Murphy Lab. It's not like I'm rich or I got tons of money or I'm privileged or trust fund baby or nothing like that. Anybody can get a Murphy Lab.
Yeah.
I mean, my other Murphy Lab was, I got for about the same price as a really expensive, like a custom. I got it used. I found it at a Guitar Center used, and I sold a couple guitars and bought that one. A couple higher end boutique guitars that I've had for a long, long time.
Probably a lot of places and a lot to choose from in the Nashville area, I would think.
Yeah, there's quite a few stores. We've got the Gibson Garages in Nashville, which is an excellent place to buy Gibsons or Kramers. They got all these killer Kramers in there, colors and paint jobs.
Cool.
But there's Rumble Seats downtown. Rumble Seats got, you never know what they're gonna have. You go in there and see a Burst, a 59 Burst, or a 63 Strat or a 56 Telecaster or whatever. I mean, they got old PRSs, and I walked in there a few months ago and they had a purple Ernie Ball Music Man Van Halen they wanted $5,600 for, or something crazy. And the paint.
Where's this?
Rumble Seat Music in Nashville. I think it's on 8th Avenue South somewhere.
Do they still have it?
I don't know. It was those purple ones had flaws in the dye, so the part of the paint was completely gone. It was just natural.
Yeah.
So it was like purple, and there was some pieces of natural.
Just flaked off. Yeah.
Yeah, and it'd been pretty well played, but it was. I think they wanted about $5 or $55 for it.
Wow.
But they got and then there's Carter's Vintage Guitars. There's Gruen Guitars. There's Corner Music. There's Guitar Center. There's Sam Ash. There's, and then the pawn shops. It used to be in the 90s, pawn shops. I still look at pawn shops. I still go in there. You never know what you're going to find. But I go to pawn shops looking for like Epiphones and PRS SEs and tube amplifiers.
Yeah.
Like orange heads and stuff that's people aren't buying. and they'll negotiate with you. You know, pawn shops don't pay nothing for that stuff.
Yeah.
And you got cash, you know, you can walk out of there a lot of times. And if you do business with them regularly, I got my ghost horse, my Brendan Small, I think that's his name, my ghost horse. I got that with a case for $500, like $500, and it's got Floyd 1000 on it and Burstbuckers in it, Gibson Burstbuckers. I mean, the Floyd and the Burstbuckers, that's about $200-300 right there. I love that guitar. So I mean, you find those kind of deals at pawn shops around Nashville because you got a lot of people here that play music that get rid of their stuff, man. It was great in the 90s because
they
you
didn't have
the internet.
Google, and a pawn shop owner couldn't Google a thing to see what it's going for on Reverb. And price it
Yeah,
accordingly.
dude, but I bought an EVH block letter 5150 in 1995 for $325.
It's
And
crazy.
it was autographed by Ted Nugent. It had like a silver Sharpie Ted Nugent autograph. So it must have been like a PV contest that someone won or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And but you know, I don't like the 5150s. I never liked the PV 5150s. I thought they were I never played super heavy metal like a lot of the real heavy chug metal bands
Right.
fell in
Yeah.
love with those 5150s, and they do their job perfectly well. But I think part of my problem was I had the original cabinet with it too, and
Oh yeah.
and lately
Sheffield.
lately people have really criticized.
Yeah, they really poo-pooed
and,
those.
I mean, I haven't played through a PV 5150 cab in a couple decades, man, but I hear like horrible things about them. So maybe it was the cabinet. Maybe
Yeah.
all along it was just. I remember the amp being kind of noisy.
Yeah, they were, and they were. I felt they were a little harsh. You want to get a couple questions real quick? Let's see. We have Alonzo says, "How do you make money as a band?"
Is that a question for me or all of us?
Yeah.
Okay, so the most money I ever made in a band was when I was doing covers like "Slippery When Wet," and the reason here's how you make money as a band, and you don't have to be in a cover band or a tribute band to do it. But this is this is my humble advice. You have to be able to put cheeks in seats, like little asses in seats. You got to bring in girls and women and you got to play music that females like. This is not a sexist thing. And brings in guys, and guys buy liquor. And you can be the shittiest band in the world, but if they like you, they're going to buy liquor. And the only thing that matters to that club is, are they paying rent? They don't care if you look good. They don't care if you sound good. They don't care anything about you as a band other than, are you there on time? And are you playing for the amount of time you're supposed to play there? So that's just playing local gigs. You got to bring people in. Now, how do you do that? That's tricky. When you're in a cover band, like when I was doing Slippery When Wet, it was easy because it was Bon Jovi. We were a good band. Our singer looked like John, and they loved the music. So we were guaranteed, like, people came in to see us. And the clubs would book us and pay us good money because they made, on a given night, the bar would do $35,000-$40,000 in liquor on a Friday night. That's a lot of money in liquor. And that's not counting chicken sandwiches and beer and stuff like that. But you got to make money for that club. And if you can make money for that club, that's when they will pay you to play there because they can afford to do it. But I will say hi to Debbie. Yeah, I'll message her. We still keep in touch. We still keep. That was my band. Remember when I said I had a kid and I was like, I'm done. I had a small band with a small label. That was the band. That was my band. Tangent Kings. That was my 90s band. It was a good band. I took that drummer to Slippery. David Gilmour. David Gilmour is one of my favorite players. In fact, I love Pink Floyd. I don't think I sound like David Gilmour, but I think a lot of my bending and phrasing I get from Gilmour and Tom Scholz. I think I sound more like Gilmour and Scholz than I do Eddie. I just teach Van Halen lessons because I love Van Halen and I've done it for so long. I want to just share that knowledge with people. And and maybe I do have a little bit of it in me, but I don't. I love Gilmour. David Gilmour is trying to say something profound that no one really says a lot about Gilmour, but what hasn't been said about David Gilmour,
Right.
his ability to bend on pitch is
It
impeccable.
draws you in emotionally. the way
Well,
he
yeah, I
plays,
mean,
right?
like, and he taught me how to do ghost bends. So I mean, like if you're in D, for instance, all right, one mistake a lot of guitar players make, especially if they're rookies, is they'll bend. I'll bend something out of key. Like here's D, like that's out of key, right? But what Gilmour would do would be like he'd be right on key, or he'd go. That ghost bend, you got to know. Like I just bent that note to pitch without hearing it.
You got to know where it is.
And a little vibrato, right? And then he not only did whole step bends, he'll do like he'll go and he'll bend it right down to a note that's not even the first note that he started with. So the way he vocalizes, his solos evoke so much emotion. It has a vocal quality to it, much like Satriani.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, great player.
I think we talked about this before you got here, Jeff K. You said it was like half a mile.
Yeah, it was a half a mile. I live out in the sticks, and we drove a half a mile down the road, and somewhere around a half a mile. I'm gonna do another full stack video. That video kind of went viral. It had like 150,000 views. It got shared on like a Marshall page and something else.
Right on.
I was like, holy crap, man.
It's so cool because I mean, there's the Friedman dimed, and here's the Marshall dimed, and you can hear them. But when you put them together, it was like, oh, now it's like you can start tapping your foot to it.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna try to do 3 stacks at once this summer.
Yeah. The trifecta.
Yeah, I'm trying to come out with some new ideas. Like I might go out in the forest for this one, like in the trees, and be like hunting Bigfoot and be out there looking for like Bigfoot and deer and stuff. And then
Can you use an inverter with batteries to power an amp out in the boom without having a generator running in the background?
I don't think so. I'm gonna bring, if I can't get someone to help me with it, I'm gonna bring my laptop out there and film it with my laptop, and then maybe I'll catch like Bigfoot on my laptop camera while I'm back at my porch playing my amps. I'll go back to edit it and be like, I cranked 3 stacks on my porch and captured Bigfoot evidence. So anything to bring in the viewers.
Yeah.
Hey, it's gonna happen. 3 stacks at once.
Right on.
Graphite Cigar says, please ask him to put some soap in his mouth for saying he dislikes Yes.
Okay. I didn't say I dislike Yes. I like Yes. I don't like early Yes records in the 70s. But I do like Yes. But you're gonna say, yeah, of course I like the
Roundabout?
album with. I like Roundabout. Yeah, I do like Roundabout. I've got a Yes record, a vinyl record that's got the 3 albums, and it's got all the like mushroomy looking things and all the crazy stuff on it. It's like I can't get into. I think what it is, graphite and cigars. What it is I'm just not a fan of 70s prog rock in general.
Just doesn't speak to you. It doesn't make you want to play it, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like some of it's really great. And you know what? Pink Floyd was 70s prog rock in a way, right? It kind of was. And so was Boston. I mean, let's face it. But there's some of it that I like and some of it that I don't care for. Some of it I think maybe I'm not into. I played jazz for a long time in college. I played in the jazz band and stuff. I like big band swing. I like swing music, and I like really. But I don't like jazz that gets into really a lot of chromatic 13 and flat 9 chords and all this weird stuff, and it gets a little too loungy for me. I would rather hear like big band stuff. So I guess I'm a wimp. Some of the 70s progressive rock to me
And it's all subjective, and it's about what's bringing you the smiles.
I said it
That's the
earlier.
goal here.
I, you know, it's part of it maybe is my age too. You know, it's funny. I find, not that I'm young, but I find, all right. So being, you know, in my very early 50s, I've got friends, good friends, who are late 50s, early 60s, and I find those guys really like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Nazareth.
AC/DC with Bon Scott.
And AC/DC, all Bon Scott. Like if it's nothing, right, and that's cool. And they like Yes, and they like Styx and all this stuff. But that goes back to what I said earlier.
Take it or leave it.
That's when you were coming of age. A lot of that stuff was your heyday, right? And I think a lot of it has to do with that. And when I was growing up, I was subjected to Love It for Sting and
That's a good one.
Pyromania and 1984 and Tom Sawyer, right? Rush Tom Sawyer was huge, and that was that era. And so I missed the Judas Priest Iron Maiden bandwagon. Now Rush, yeah, I love Rush. You know, Rush is very progressive. The my favorite song by Rush is Working Man. Which I know Neil Peart wasn't on that song, but I love Working Man. I love gosh, there's so many good Rush tunes.
For me,
Lyrically,
it's the 2112 album. You got to start at the beginning. You got to go
Right.
through it till the end. That's a journey.
something about Rush being progressive, you know, 70s rock. I dig that. I think it's I mean, they were a three-piece. They were a three-piece that was just killer. And I like Geddy's weird voice. Geddy's got this voice that you love it or you hate it, man. I love it. And I wish I had a Lifeson Epiphone. 90s hard rock, 90s and 2000s? Yeah, 90s rock.
Alice in Chains comes to mind for me.
I'm gonna reveal something I've never really revealed on my channel before, but I'd like a lot of 90s hard rock. Yeah, I like Alice in Chains. I like Soundgarden. I like. I never was a huge Nirvana fan. I respected them. I just I really didn't like Nirvana too much. I think maybe it got overplayed, but I like.
Pantera.
I liked early Pantera.
Yeah.
First couple albums, as they progressed, as they got a little, like, Vulgar Display of Power was a little
was their
bit.
pinnacle.
After that, it kind of went the wayside for me a
Right.
little bit. But the 90s were weird because I listened to a lot of Steve Vai in the 90s. Queensryche was killer. Operation Mindcrime.
Right.
Operation Mindcrime, I played like so much. Alter Bridge. I forgot how it went. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, Operation Mindcrime was the perfect album.
What are you playing through right now, Marty?
I'm playing through a Fractal X8.
Okay.
In mono, since I've only got a 2-channel input. I liked, in the 90s too. I really like the 90s punk bands. I really fell in love. I'm a huge Blink-182 fan. I love Tom DeLonge. Tom DeLonge is I love UFOs and all that stuff, but the Blink stuff and all the Green Day records were great, and I like Sum 41, and I really thought that the California, like the punk stuff was really cool, and a lot of, even though it wasn't technical, it was, to me, the 90s were cool, but it got a little too dark sometimes, and it gave me a little bit of light, it gave me a little that pop sensibility. But I dug that. And in the 2000s rock, early 2000s, gosh, that was a time of change too, when you had like Korn and you know, the Limp
Slipknot?
Bizkit stuff, Slipknot,
Mudvayne?
yeah, I loved all that stuff, man. When it came out, it was like, yeah, metal's coming back, you know, because in the early 2000s, for those who may be on here that are really young, I mean, boy bands and girl bands were killing everything, and that's kind of what killed my original band, Tangent Kings, was we were competing with like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. My God, Britney Spears was like everywhere, and NSYNC, and then Justin Timberlake, and all these spin-offs, and it was like everybody was coming out of Disney. All these
Honorable
Disney
mention
artists.
to go back to mid-90s right now, Tool.
Tool.
When Tool first came out, that was like, whoa, these guys are different.
Yeah.
That's right?
What about these guys, though? I mean, come on.
Silly Vanilli.
And the original backing tracks.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you know, people talk about Milli Vanilli doing backing tracks. The problem with Milli Vanilli, which I don't hear people talk about so much. Yeah, they were lip syncing. They weren't even on the freaking record. So they won an award for an album that they didn't even perform on. So they were legitimately fake. Like they were just packaged. They weren't even, their voices weren't even on the record. So
The biggest con ever.
yeah, I mean, like I can deal with it. I don't like it. I wouldn't want to go to a concert that was pure lip synced garbage. But if that person's on the record, I mean, at least they cut it. But Milli Vanilli weren't even.
Yeah,
They had nothing to
with it.
do with it, you
Yeah.
know. And so people, and sadly, I mean, one of them committed suicide, right?
Crazy.
Over it. Yeah, I mean, it's too bad. Entertainment business will eat you up and spit you out, man.
You can't really throw the artist under the bus either. There was probably a lot of pressure from a lot of executive business nonsense crap I mean, they were
Dude,
just puppets. They were
so
just
many of us
actors.
so many of us would do that. If someone came to you and said, "Man, you're going to go on the road, and this has sold millions of copies, and here's what's going to happen: you're going to wind up getting a couple Ferraris out of this and a huge house, and this is going to be great. It's just entertainment." I'd be like, "I'll do it.
I'm in.
I'm in." Right? I wouldn't kill myself over it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make it right. But it's show business, man.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, for God's sakes, it's Milli Vanilli. Who's really gonna take that crap seriously anyway?
I don't think they were being cheated out of their original artwork or anything, right?
our sole purpose as musicians is really to make people dance, to make people happy as artists. So many people try to.
Share the
I mean,
smile.
yeah, there's really serious records, man. You got these really deep Rush lyrics, you know, Neil Peart writing these really cool lyrics, and you got these people that really are into their art, and that's great. But at the end of the day, man, as musicians, we are here to put cheeks in seats and make people dance and drink beer and have a good time and have fun doing it. And it's great if we take our art seriously and we want to go back to our studio and create the best, the greatest concept record of all time. And that's fine. You know, there's a lot of artists out there that will, you know, they'll basically just they only stick to their core fan. They're true diehard fans. They like alienate everybody. Like they'll get to a certain, like, I'm gonna probably piss off some people, but Prince kind of did that. Prince alienated his fan
Purple
base.
Rain
He's
thing,
like,
boom.
yeah, he's like, you know, at a certain point, he's like, I'm gonna do this, and it was good stuff. But he's like, I'm not gonna worry about, you know, Zappa did it. Zappa just did what he wanted to do, man.
Absolutely.
But when you get to a certain level, you can alienate your fan base because you never got to work again. It doesn't matter if you sell any records at all anymore because people are still going to come see you. But my point is, you know, I like to dumb it down. As artists, we're here to cater to the public. We are public servants to make music and ultimately create credible art that people enjoy. That's good, but
I mean,
We're just
today's
playing
world,
music.
would a concept album even work with everybody just buying all their music a la carte on all these? Right? No one's going out and buying a double album. Or
will it be
disc set or-
successful today? No, probably not. People would enjoy it? The core fan base would, and it doesn't mean it's not a good album or a good record, but no, you're right. People digest stuff in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
5 minute
Nowadays.
intervals.
Actually, it's 20 seconds now with the shorts. That's the popular thing, you know.
You know, I felt like that when CDs were invented. Records and cassettes made you you kind of listen to the whole thing. You know, you would
Open up the flaps and read the credits.
right, and
the
then some of your
lyrics and the
favorite
lines
some of your favorite takes were like the songs that weren't hits. Like on Boston One, "Hitch a Ride" is my favorite Boston
Come
song,
on,
and
hitch
it
a
wasn't
ride.
it wasn't a hit, but I love the solo in "Hitch a Ride," man. I love that
Every
song.
song is so good.
Yeah, and when CDs came out, this may sound stupid to some people, but when CDs came out, I was like, "Oh, what's the next song?" Click, click. I couldn't my mind didn't know how to like listen to a song. I'd see that counter ticking away. I'm like, okay, it's 40 seconds to the next song, and I would digest albums really fast. And I'm the kind of person that I can't listen to a lot of stuff at once. I will listen to a record over and over and over for like a year. I can only have about 3 albums on rotation. Like seriously, I listen to podcasts and things like that, but I can only digest. It takes me a while, man. I have to like.
I'm still consuming all that music from the 90s and the late 80s. That's my
You know what's one record I
playlist.
still
100
listen
gigs
to?
of thrash metal.
I
and-
listen to the Third Eye Blind the first Third Eye Blind record all the time, man. There's a song on there called "God of Wine" that brings me to tears, man, for a lot of reasons. But Third Eye Blind just, annihilates me.
Mhm.
But that album came out in the late '90s. I'm still digesting it.
Yeah.
But you're right. Shorts are addictive. 20 seconds here, there, and it's. I think social media has kind of made our attention spans even like. I'm that way. My attention span isn't what it used to be. I'm like, I canceled DirecTV a couple years ago, 3 years ago, and I don't even miss it. And I go on to YouTube. I have YouTube, Red, and I watch it. And man, if I see a video that's like over 8 or 9 minutes, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can commit to
Clicking through.
I don't know if I can commit to 13 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's wrong with me, man? What's the 13 minutes?
A lot of times what I'll do too is you'll notice on some of the YouTube videos, if you put your little pointer up there, it'll show you the most viewed areas of that video. And
I
I'll
know.
go, okay, this must be the good part. And I'll just fast forward to it.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
You're right.
Yeah, it's gotten to all of us.
And we used to sit through commercials, us kids that didn't have like TiVo and stuff and DVRs. You'd have to like, if you wanted to watch Married with Children, you had to be home on Sunday night, and it was 8 o'clock, or The Simpsons or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when the commercial came on, you went and got like something to drink, and you came back.
Yeah.
Or
Or
you
you to the
watch-
restroom or whatever you had
Or
to do.
you knew the commercials. You're like, God, if I see this juicy fruit commercial one more time, and I'm thinking
You
to
had that
myself,
one friend who would record it, and he'd hit the pause button on the commercials. And sometimes he'd punch in a little late when he's coming back after the commercial. But I had that guy. He had like
I know.
the first 10 episodes of, or first 10 seasons of The Simpsons on VHS tapes.
I hate commercials. I don't know anybody that likes them. I don't even like Super Bowl commercials. But even before I had YouTube Red, it's like as soon as that commercial hit skip, man, we're hitting that thing
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah.
Skip, skip, skip. And we used to sit through them, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sad for people that never sat and read the album cover while listening to Jane's Addiction 3 days. Yeah, that's a lost kind of thing now.
I think it's coming back. My 21-year-old daughter bought a turntable, one of those little wooden things with the CDs and cassettes.
It
and
is
whatever.
coming back. My son,
But
who's a
she
music
started buying
student,
albums, and albums are like $30 now, Canadian.
Yeah,
You know,
my
20,
son is
25 bucks.
My son's a junior, can be a junior in college. He's a music student, and he plays trumpet, but he does guitar, or little
Wow.
guitar and piano. And I buy him. He likes vinyl records, and there's a resurgence. A lot of the young kids are discovering stuff from our generation and earlier. And he told me the other day, I sent him Boston. We talk about Boston One all night here, but I sent him Boston One on vinyl as a surprise gift one day. It was a used copy, and I got like $6 and sent it to him. And he said to me the other day, he's like, man, he goes, I don't know what's wrong with music today. He's like, you listen to an album like Boston One, it's perfect. he goes, they don't make records like that anymore. Why don't they make records like that anymore? I'm like, man, I can't even begin to explain to you, you know. Yep, I think what comes around goes around.
Yeah.
Sure.
Should come back with a resurgence. So
You
you
know-
admit, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, you know, I think you're right. I think stuff. It's the ebb and flow. You know, kind of. I don't think this AI stuff. Everyone's worried AI is gonna write music, and it'll be a fad. But I don't think anything will ever replace the human factor in music, because
Yeah.
that's. I mean, at our core essence, we're all human, right? So obviously, duh, we're human, and you can get close to replicating it, and it can be pretty spot on, but it's still.
It
know.
it eventually would just be. Well, there, as an example, there's videos where people have taken, I think it was a Led Zeppelin song, and the drums that, you know, are in the tune. You know, there's a syncopation. There's a human element to it, and they took and they corrected the drums to be in perfect time, and played it back, and it sounded
Sterile.
awful.
Sterile.
Yeah, it sounded awful.
You need that human element, that push-pull, and that's what really comes together when you have a drummer and a guitar player, and they're brothers. And they've been doing this since it's, you know, running around in freaking nothing but their underwear.
I'm
guys
I'm
have a
tired of hearing
syncopation.
everybody. I'm just tired of everybody using the same plugins on guitars and everyone's sound. You
Too
know,
bad.
it's like, yeah, I mean, it's almost like when you hear a heavy band anymore. Like, say it's a pop band, like a rock band that does kind of pop rock.
That
so
ain't no
much of,
plug-in.
so much of it sounds like Alter Bridge.
Yeah.
You know, or it's got that Miles Kennedy sound on the vocals, or the Foo Fighters thing, because that's what's popular. And you know, in the early 2000s, when Green Day was cranking out like 21st Century Breakdown and some of those, you know, American Idiot, Chris Lord-Alge was producing that stuff, and he compressed everything so damn tight, and everything was like right there. It was like spot on, and it was great. But everyone copied that, man. Everybody just copied it. The same old country song. I hear you. I'm in Nashville, man, and dude, I mean, it's that's why people like Chris Stapleton so much.
Right.
Because Chris Stapleton sounds real. I mean, there's other country artists too. I'm just using him as an example. But when Chris Stapleton was on Super Bowl, when he did the national anthem or whatever, people are like, "Holy crap, man!" And it's like, right there, you got a guy with a Telecaster who sings,
Mm-hmm.
and is there more than one country song? It's all the same song, man.
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
And when you do it backwards, you know, the dog gets
But
resurrected.
You get these
the
ones
wife
that
comes
kind
back.
of ride the line. And I'll use Taylor Swift as an example. Probably the most popular artist in North America at the moment.
Well, a lot of reasons why a lot of heavy metal guys live in Nashville now. I mean, a lot of the metal guys live here. Mick Mars lives here. Phil X lives here. I think Sambora lives here at times. Vince Neil lives here. Tom Kiefer lives here. Mark Slaughter lives here. It goes on and on and on. Like, I can name, I go on for 10 minutes. But what it
Must
is
make going out on a Friday night pretty fun. You never know who you're going to meet, right?
Yeah.
If you're going
Well,
downtown, hanging out.
country music still has guitar solos, and country guitar players still use tube amps. They do use Kempers and stuff too. Don't get me wrong, but they in the studio, and as far as being gearheads, this is cities like Nashville, and if you want to get gigs and stuff, it's still country music's still a viable art form in some segments where you can
Big time. That's
you
a
can
lot of-
play, you can shred, man, and if you want to, if you're not a guitar player, or you know you live in Nashville or you don't live in Nashville, you want to be humbled. There's some serious cats
Mm-hmm.
in Nashville.
I'll bet.
I mean, there's
Goes
I
back
stand
to Roy
among.
Clark and those guys. I mean, those guys were killer guitar players, man. And it's just they were playing with a certain flavor. Like again,
Well,
going back to
that's
food,
true.
right?
But
It's
even
just
there's
that
even
was their
some
flavor.
some of my buddies. There's some young cats in town, and just people that go on these road gigs that get, you know, you go tour with these bands. Man, they There's good players in Nashville. It's like L.A.
Not bad.
You know, you gotta. There's a lot of you know, a lot of decent players and beginners and stuff, but Nashville's no joke. Nashville's really wild. It's got a lot of hip hop. It's got a lot of Hispanic music. It's a melting pot now. It's huge, but I don't know. I never heard Glenn Campbell play. He might have been a monster guitarist. Roy Clark, Jerry Reed.
Second for Glenn Campbell.
Yep.
Dan Huff lives here. Dan Huff produced like the Megadeth stuff, but Dan Huff was the guitar player and singer in Giant. Dan Huff is a monster. He played all that killer stuff on the Shania records. Then there's Brent Mason. I don't know if you guys know who Brent Mason is, but Brent Mason is the guy, man. He single-handedly wrote the book for sessions in Nashville. Any great country lick from the 90s and even in the 2000s, like Chattahoochee and all those signature licks off of all the Alan Jackson stuff and the Shania records. And Brent Mason has been on more cuts than probably any guitar player in Nashville, like hits. He's the Steve Lukather of Nashville.
There you go.
I mean, he is, man. If you don't know who Brent Mason is, you got to look up Brent Mason on YouTube, and he is a son of a bitch, man. That dude, he's got a B-bender. He's got his own Telecaster that Fender puts out. I don't mean son of a bitch like a jerk. He's a good dude, man, but in all sincerity, that guy, I mean, he's a lion. He'd kill you. And there's a lot of guys like that in town, so he's the man. Brent.
Now, when you're obviously in a band now and you play in Nashville out, do you find, I think you touched on it a little bit, it's not a big thing there as stage volume as it is other places, so you're able to carry your tube amp up and get you a nice...
Show up with a half stack? What do you bring to a gig?
Or are they wanting you to bring your axe effects and keep volumes low and that kind of thing?
Sound guys hate loud volumes, and the clubs don't necessarily mind it, but I think sound guys have the hardest job. It's the worst job, man, and we need them, and I love having a great sound man, but they deal with a lot of bands that don't know what they're doing, right? And the worst thing you can have is a guitar player who's too loud, and then because then they don't even mic you, they'll just have a mic in front of you and they'll turn you off, and it makes the whole band sound poor. But with my BE, my Friedman BE, I can bring a half stack, and that tone you can dial in on one and it's fine. And my little Egnator cabinets that are over here, these little 1x12s, I recently got those. I usually take both of those now and just put a head on top of those, just because they're light. I can pick them up like one-handed, and they got greenbacks in them, and they sound fantastic. Sound guys will put baffles in front of your stuff too. They'll put like a screen in front of it, like a plexiglass or a road case lid with a microphone. But you have to earn their trust. You gotta be like, listen, man, this is just for tone. I need this for headroom. And of course, every guitar player tells them it's for tone, and then they turn it up. Now this Marshall, I could never bring it to a gig. I'd have to put an attenuator on it, and they make it sound worse. This amp is really loud. Now I could play it clean and put like a tube screamer in front of it, and it would be okay. But it won't break up unless you turn it loud. Like Eddie used to have to turn his amp backwards.
Everything all the way up.
Yeah, you turn it backwards against the wall. So, but Nashville, most guys I see playing downtown are, they're either playing through like an Axe Effects or a Helix type setup with in-ears, or they're running combos. Nashville's a real combo amp, Fender Twin, or a reverb amp with a nice pedal board. Nashville guitar players love their pedals in general. There's a lot of music stores here that have really nice boutique pedals and fun stuff, and it's not unusual to go to a gig and see somebody with like 40 pedals on their board, and it's like all these high-end pedals that you're like, they don't even use it, but it's like, it's awesome.
Vinny Vincent still in Nashville? Do you know?
Yeah, Vinny's here. Vinny makes local news, like on the music channel, the music Facebook pages. Like, he's kind of got a bad rap because he hasn't been very reliable when it comes to like releasing music, and he'll like get people to give him money for stuff that he doesn't follow through on, like shows or meet and greets, and he cancels a lot of stuff, and I don't know why he does that. It might be his publicist or whatever, but recently Vinny was in the news, the local like music news, I guess you could say, on social media, talking about how he's putting together this. He's got a new singer, and he's going to be putting out some material and some remix stuff.
Bring the band back together.
Right, and he's done this a lot. And one day after he announced the singer and that they were going to be doing this album, the next day he announced that the singer was no longer working with him.
Wow.
He does stuff like that all the time, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Vinny's. Now, I love Kiss. Okay, now I'm not the world's biggest Kiss fan. I'm not.
I loved your little Kiss lesson.
Cool. I gotta do
That
another
was
one.
just enough to digest and kind of get a feel for it and play it. I haven't like dug right into it and made it my focus, but it was a fun.
I'm gonna do a Crazy Nights lesson.
Right
I like Crazy Nights. It's corny, but I like it. But every time you listen to Kiss interviews, they never have anything good to say about Vinny. They always say Vinny was really hard to work with. Yeah. Everybody in Kiss, like anybody that works with Vinny Vincent, and I don't know the man personally. I've never met him. I'll tell you a funny story about Vinny, and this is a true story, and it's really weird. A couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I lose track of time. It might have been right as the pandemic was starting. Maybe it was a year after the pandemic was starting to clear up. Well, he did a birthday bash in Nashville, and he sold these tickets. And he had canceled several things up to this point, so it was kind of up in the air. Is Vinny going to do this thing? Is he really going to do it? And he was getting a lot of bad press because he had canceled so many things. And he wound up doing it. And my drummer, my friend Keith, he plays drums. He played drums in a couple of my original bands after I left the Bon Jovi thing. He's one of my best friends. Keith is a long time Kiss fan. Like, he eats, lives, and breathes Kiss every single day, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's worse about Kiss than we are Van Halen, right?
Yeah.
I'm serious, man. And he was working, and he found out through the grapevine that Vinny Vincent was looking for a drummer to play with him. And this was like 2 days before Vinny was doing this thing he was selling tickets for.
Mm-hmm.
Like a couple days. I'm like, and he's not even prepared. This is honest to God truth. So somehow, I don't remember how he got it, but my friend Keith wound up, there was a bass player that my drummer didn't know. He met the bass player down outside this venue. I think it was at this, forget the name of this rehearsal studio. They do these things. They run them out downtown, and the tickets were pretty expensive. I think it was like $300 or $400, $500, and you're going to be able to eat food, do questions and answers, and then watch Vinny Vincent jam.
Mm-hmm.
Watch Vinny jam, and people were saying Vinny can't play anymore. This was during that time where people didn't think Vinny could play anymore. And the day after, no cameras were allowed. They made you leave your cell phone or whatever. And I talked to my friend afterwards the next day, and he said, well, yeah, Vinny can still play shreds like he used to, but he goes, before everybody showed up, Vinny was like, well, what do you guys want to do? And they wound up doing like 2 like little blues jams, sort of like you would just play like E to A, like a shuffle or something. They didn't have, it wasn't like they would have worked out like a set, which I would have fully expected someone to do, right? And then I guess this publicist had made like sandwiches. It wasn't like a catered thing. Like they had made like the food at their house. It was like they brought things out like in, I don't want to, I could be
paper plates and saran wrap on top.
It was
salad. You got your turkey and you got your beef.
It was close to that, man. I don't want to say they brought it out with Tupperware and stuff, but it was like it was like a potluck meal, and of course these people are like, oh, Vinny Vincent, because they were like paid the money, and it was a dream come true for my friend because he's Kiss, like 100%. So, but I thought that was a little unusual. And I'm not bagging on Vinny. I mean, he's been successful. He's successful, man. I thought the Vinny Vincent Invasion stuff was cool. Actually, I thought it was kind of neat.
Different personalities. I
even
guess.
Mark Slaughter has said he was tough to work with.
Some people are like that, I guess.
Yeah. People tell me I'm hard to work with too.
On the 8th day, Vinny played a show. There we go.
I'm having a blast,
right.
Marty. Cheers, man.
Zach, not a big fan of the Kiss albums, huh?
Yeah, Kiss had awful production. I agree with you. I like Kiss because I like them as businessmen, and I like their hits. I think the first Kiss record is my favorite. I think Kiss, even though it's produced kind of bad, I love Black Diamond and Strutter and Firehouse.
There was some core riffage in there that was influencing the people that we idolize now.
Yeah, and something to do with, they were hungry sounding on that record. It was gritty. It's kind of like the early Rush stuff.
Right. But it's
Kiss
not too
had
complicated for a beginner who wants to,
Right.
play some songs and figure some stuff out. As is, AC/DC. I put air quotes out on that because, Malcolm was a master of rhythm. And AC/DC is a lot harder to get right than it is to pull half-ass off.
But AC/DC was produced great. Of course, Mutt Lange produced AC/DC, but the first few Kiss records were produced horrible, and I even think the Bob Ezrin stuff was produced bad. I think the first Kiss album that I really truthfully feel like had really good production on it was Revenge, which was a Vinnie Vincent record that he co-wrote on, right? But that's just my opinion. But I think Gene and Paul are such control freaks. I love Kiss. Don't yell at me if I like Kiss. But I don't think, much like Van Halen and Van Halen 3, needed to be produced better. Van Halen 3 would have been a better record.
I think bands do silly things.
Had Don Landy produced Van Halen 3 and could have told Eddie, we need to let's work on this song. Let's edit this. Take this solo different. Let's edit, and Eddie didn't have a partner. I think Eddie was pulling the strings, and no one would tell Eddie, let's fix it.
Nobody would say no. Yeah.
And I don't think anybody I don't think Gene, if you listen to the Van Halen demo that Gene did, it's terrible. It's produced awful. It sounds like a bad Kiss record. That's just my opinion. And I don't think Gene I think Gene was involved in that production, and I don't think they would take direction. I think they control it so much.
Battle of the egos.
They should have just let somebody produce it and mix it and just focus on their material. But I hate it when bands have poorly produced records. Hell, the Beatles had great production. Led Zeppelin had great production. You can't say, it was so old, it was so long ago, production was bad. Bullshit. There's some albums that sound
that
killer.
Old stuff on vinyl on a proper hi-fi system is moving to listen to.
Sure, you're right.
And that goes back to the early ZZ Top, the Jethro Tulls, the Weather Reports. My stepfather was into jazz, and he had one of those hi-fi systems that the kids don't even go in a room unless they're accompanied by an adult.
Yeah.
I was exposed to a lot of that kind of stuff.
I saw a comment on this. No, they didn't like the Van Halen 3-tone. I didn't either. I think when Eddie moved away from EL34s, and when he moved to the 5150 heads, I think Eddie's hearing changed a lot. This is my opinion. I think Eddie started to hear things different. Eddie never really liked really high gain amps and high gain pickups, and as Eddie got older and older, he kept getting higher gain and more compressed.
Yep.
And by the time he hit Van Halen 3, man, dude, his 5150s were just like balls out, like Soldanos on steroids, and it was sizzly sounding, and that's a hard tone.
That's what brought them. A lot of people
to capture
the 3 channels, right? If you go to the blue channel, that's the heaviest one.
Yeah, the red one.
Red one. That's what all the metal guys. Scotty in from Anthrax. That's his.
Yeah, I had a white 5153, and I played on channel 1. I put the gain all the way up on 1, and I
Yeah.
made it crunch, and then sometimes I'd boost channel 2 for a solo boost, but I don't like 6L6 tubes. I think but a lot of the metal guys love them because they saturate a certain way.
Yeah.
I think
like my
the
34s.
5150s with the 34s in it sounds so much better. I want my guitar to sound like 1984,
Yeah.
like Girl Gone Bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what I want. I don't want my guitar to sound like. Although the Ernie Ball Music Man sound was great, but he used Soldanos on For Unlawful,
Yeah.
and he uses old Marshall on For Unlawful too.
Yeah.
He had it fixed.
Yeah. I think the pinnacle riff for a guitar tone is if you could duplicate the beginning of Drop Dead Legs. You know that that kerrang that he gets.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate tone.
But you
Of
know,
course.
Don had a lot to do with that too. Like that's all Eddie's feel and his touch. But there's
That's
a
where,
great
like,
there's a
Main
guitar.
Street.
I think Guitar World had a 1984 like a 25th anniversary or 30th anniversary several years ago, and they did a full breakdown on 84. And in that interview, they said that Eddie and Alex played that entire record live, and they had a baffle, like a 5-foot or 4-foot baffle between Eddie and Alex. Like they were sitting in chair, like Eddie was in a chair sitting next to Al, and they could look at each other. And Eddie had one Marshall turned in the corner with a 57 on it. It was like, and that he had to do it that way so his amp wouldn't bleed over on the drums. And him and Al, there's rehearsal tapes you can hear of them working on 84. You can hear all the outtakes. There's like a 30 or 40 minute thing on YouTube somewhere where you hear them just working on one riff for like 20 minutes because they were like wanting to get it. And that whole album was just cut live. And then Don came in later and they mix it. You know, they add a little, they add a little, like the Drop Dead Legs chorus and stuff. I guarantee you none of that stuff was recorded to the console that way. It was probably just straight up amp, tone, and then they, as Eddie says, they add the jape to it
Add the
later.
jape to it later. Yep.
Yeah, you can't record like that because once you record that way, it's committed on tape forever.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Let's see. Graphite and cigars. One of you just say, I need my guitar to sound like women and children.
I need my guitar to sound like women and children.
There you go.
That's fair warning, so whatever. I
Have
don't know why I did that, but I just
See,
did.
there's
Hey,
a certain bit
sounded
of
great.
swing to that riff, man. It just makes you kind of like you feel like you're walking down the street, strutting your stuff, shaking your ass. It's just got that.
It's hard to play right. It's a hard riff, man. I mean, it's simple, but it's like hard to feel.
something about that fair warning, the mean street. I mean, that, like you said, it just kind of has an emotion evoked with it.
You know, to give
Well,
a
you know,
porn
Eddie was
analogy,
able
it's
to
kind of
go
like
in-
John Travolta with the "Staying Alive." You know, you can totally see him walking down the street to
Yeah.
that song.
Well, you know, Eddie went in later and cut all those overdubs, and it's because him and Don were able to sit there without any distractions, and for the first time ever, Eddie was really able to focus on being creative in overdubs. It was a little bit on women and children, but Fair Warning was Eddie's
Masterpiece.
first foray really into let's just me and the producer, the engineer, sit down and work out these parts. That's why you have such cool solos like you know when push comes to shove and different things like that. He's able to sit there and really think that stuff out and take.
You can get it worked out just right.
Yeah. I think that's why us guitar players love Fair Warning so much because, you know, Eddie was just kind of like unleashed. Like just do it.
And Unchained is so good too. I mean, that one, that's got the, when I hear Unchained, I'm back in the Camaro. When windows rolled down and you're chirping into second gear.
Yeah. Can you tell that I like Fair Warning? I don't know if you can make that out.
That's a beautiful guitar. You should go get it.
Yeah, let me grab it real quick.
I can't really make it out.
I think you'll dig it. Yeah, it's good. It's got the album graphics on it. Kind of almost see it now. Put the Precious on its stand.
Getting my ears back on here.
Right on, right on.
My beloved Fair Warning Kramer.
Man, that's neat. Where'd you get that?
I bought, this is a 2009 USA made Kramer Pacer Imperial reissue. I think Imperial is what they called it.
How'd you get that print on it?
Well, it's hand painted. There's an artist that I know. His name is Jeff Rich, RCA Guitars, and he did the artwork for me. We kind of sat down and we laid out how we wanted it. You know,
it's so cool.
Yeah, and this was always, you know, from being a kid and listening to, you know, this album and looking at the artwork on it. This was, I always thought this just completely described the whole album right here.
Exactly.
You know, dude getting punched in the face out in the mean street, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's really badass, man. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it's a pretty good sounding guitar too.
She tuned?
I hadn't played her in a while.
Been a minute, yeah.
Yeah, she sounds like it. I'd have to grab my
It's not terrible.
What pickups
Strobo
are in
stomp.
What pickups that are in it?
these are back in the day when you could buy. I did this guitar back. When did I do this? 2007. You could still buy the USA made Wolfgang pickups.
Yeah.
You know, now you buy them. They're the Korean made, but these are USA Wolfgangs.
Huh. Cool. You ever tried a Frankenstein pickup?
I have not.
Do they still make those? Are they available on the Van Halen store?
I think that you can get them. I think Seymour Duncan actually doesn't he still make a Frankenstein pickup?
I don't know. I just remember you used to be able to get the EVH Frankie pickup. They're like 100 and I think they're like 150, 149 or something. They might be on the Van Halen store still. Where you used to be able to, you know, you buy the flip flops and shirts and stuff. You can buy D-tunas on there and.
Yeah, I think there's still
straps.
a Seymour Duncan version that you can get.
I was always curious about what was different between that. Excuse me, that and the EVH pickup, like a Wolfgang pickup.
Some of these Wolfgang pickups sound different guitars, I gotta say.
Yeah, every Wolfgang special or USA Wolfgang that I've got, they all sound different. You know, it's
With
just
the same
they all have their.
It's true. The Frankie's a Wolfgang pickup, and the Frankie, it took my I can't speak. I've only played mine, but it legit kicks ass, man.
Yeah.
And compared to my other Wolfgang that I got rid of, now this one sounds very much like my Frankie, but Frankie still sounds a little better.
Mm.
I don't know if it's the way the neck's attached to the body or the bridge or just
All
one
the-
pickup angled or.
Yeah, all the little things adding up, I guess. What should I play, Trev?
What should you play? One of your deep cuts?
Let me get in a position where I
lay
can
it down,
actually play.
are
Yeah.
How about Happy Trails?
Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough of that.
Dig it.
She sounds pretty good.
That's a hard lick to play.
That martini with the reach.
I've never been able to master that lick. I do it like I do some kind of lame. It might be how you do it. I go. I forgot. I go. That's slow motion. So, is that what you do?
You know what? I don't even really know. Let's see. Let's see. Something like that.
Yeah, your second chord sounds better than mine. I play my second chord like it's too
Gotta
thin
do the
sounding
reach.
there.
Yeah.
I'm on the B and the G.
Anyway,
we had this discussion earlier. It's like, you know what? There's a lot of different ways to play stuff.
whatever
It's like,
sounds good to you.
I
Yep.
know, right? But
As
yeah,
long as it sits in the mix and it's bringing the smiles.
yours sounds better than mine. So I tell you, I
come on.
like that version. But DeMartini, man, he was the man, dude.
Yeah,
That
the
was
way
one of those bands that kind of left him as an underrated guitarist for some time.
Yeah.
Because it was more about Piercy and the
Well, the thing
rat
that was
and
cool
the
about-
singer and the hair and the,
You know, the cool thing about DeMartini, I like how he does, like, he'll be in a minor key, like, you know, I'm just jamming. He's got a minor major thing going. Then when he does the solos, he'll be like, then it's like minor. He throws that major third in there. I mean, that's not anything like DeMartini, like completely, but you know what I'm saying. It's like he's got that. It sounds minor, but then he'll just be like,
Yep.
and then you got Lynch who would do like,
Yeah.
you never can tell. Are you going major? Are you going minor? It's like this Mixolydian thing.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Certainly gives them their own kind of flavor, you know, to their sound.
But you know, much like Don Landee shaped Eddie's tone in the, like, especially the Van Hagar stuff, like they really worked hand in hand well together. I mean, it was all Eddie. I mean, it's Eddie's talent, but Don really shaped a lot of that stuff. Bo Hill, the producer for Rat, or Bo, whatever his name was, Bo was the guy that made Rat. He made Stephen Piercy's voice sound like that, and he gave DeMartini that delay in that chorus sound. So much of that Rat tone came in that production. You know, that's that definitive. Like Mutt Lange made kind of that Def Leppard sound.
When that stuff came out, I was like 14, 15, so we were still not legally allowed to drive, but I had a couple of friends who we would go driving in their mom's car when she wasn't looking, and we were listening to that. The Loudness, remember?
Yeah. Turn it up.
Loudness. And Accept. Restless and Wild. I mean, driving around in cars listening to like music, just restless and wild, reckless and wild.
We were trying to figure out if that was the drop D stuff. Let me see. Yeah, that one definitely was drop D.
Yep.
Don't tell me. So what, you working on any new tunes for your channel? A little
coming
lesson
up?
or anything? What's coming up?
You know, I'm gonna do a couple of guitar gear reviews coming up. I've been on this Van Hagar kick where I did When It's Love and Why Can't This Be Love.
Can we
And
get
I was-
5150 in the mix? I really
Fi-
want to figure that one out.
5150's in there. I did.
Is it
You
already in
search-
there?
It's
I gotta
search-
go.
Yep.
Sorry,
Um,
I apologize.
No, you're okay. No, you're okay. No, you're fine. It's in there. Like Prego spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, right on.
Is
but I was-
is all fired up in there somewhere?
AFU's not in there. I first attacked a year ago or so. I started doing like the stuff I was really familiar with. So now I'm getting into stuff I haven't really, other than a few licks, a few riffs. I gotta dissect it, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of have to
Hunker
spend
down.
a little bit more time with it. Yeah, I'm a little challenged sometimes writing out tabs and spending the time editing because I'm
It's
really
one of
super
my
busy.
favorite things, though, about your lessons is your hand tabs. They're perfect. They're on point, and you throw just enough theory in the mix for those of us who have
Yeah.
a basic understanding of how it works, so that okay, yeah, I'm following you there.
That's
okay.
cool. I appreciate that. You know, I don't want to slack off on that. So I really haven't made a determination yet of what the next thing's gonna be.
Skype lessons. Do you do
We'll
any
see.
of that kind of online lessons? I think you said lessons earlier. Are those just in-person lessons, or
Well, I've stopped teaching for the moment. I haven't
Okay.
done. I've never done Skype lessons. It sounds like an excuse.
I do that
It-
like this because Zoom would be better, and StreamYard doesn't suck either. But
Yeah. It's it sounds like an excuse, but I plan on eventually getting there. I plan on doing it, but I just don't have the time right now
fair enough.
to do Skype lessons or even like in person.
Just keep on doing what you're
Lessons.
doing, man. I dig it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like everybody, we all got day gigs and we got you know, families and personal things going on and
cut the grass. God damn it.
yeah, dude, there's a lot of stuff going on. Nothing bad in my life right now, but it just
The damn paradise.
the last month and a half for me has just been I've been really covered up. I mean, when my son got out of college, you know, and he got his car got totaled and he was okay. Someone rear-ended him and I've been dealing with insurance, and then I had to get him a different car, and then the car I bought him broke, and I'm dealing with that garage, and I've been. It's amazing how much time during the day that has soaked up in the last 3 weeks.
No doubt.
Yeah, it really has taken a toll, and YouTube channel takes up a lot of time. It really does. I've been working on, you know, I've got a couple projects that I work on as far as bands and charts that I write and music, transcriptions. I work on that during the week. So, and then, like you said, cutting the grass and just stuff in general.
Doing the laundry, cooking dinner.
Yeah, and then it's like I've been trying to crank out 3 videos a week now for a year and a half, and I've been doing almost 3 a week.
Yeah,
Almost.
But you've
And I've-
had some pretty good traction too. I mean, I think you've doubled from when I started watching you. I think.
Yeah, it's picked up, you know, and I've
And
been
your
getting-
content's great, man. I mean, we can see that there has been a progression in your production values and the shows that you're doing. And we can see you're trying to engage the audience. Speaking as the audience,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I appreciate
I
it,
dig
you
it.
know, and I'm trying to up my game and make it interesting, and I have a little notepad on my iPhone that every time I get an idea for Van Halen stuff or a song lesson or just something goofy, so I may not do a lesson this week. I recently bought a couple guitars that I got really good deals on that I want to.
Love the show and tell.
Some people
Love to
like
show them
guitar videos. Some
Yeah.
people don't. Some people don't have time to sit down and be like, I'm going to figure out this. And I'm like, I've got so many lessons people can dig into that discover my channel every single day.
Yeah.
That I don't feel like I have to put out a lesson every week, but I do want to. I do want to.
Just to feed the algorithm.
Right, I want to do that, and there are people that's all they want from my channel, so I want to do it, but I want to be able to. I don't want to just do Van Halen stuff either. I mean, I get better views sometimes on, like my ZZ Top stuff gets views. My AC/DC video, I think, had 50,000 views. I'm like, holy crap, you know. And Def Leppard stuff gets a lot of views.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I almost thought about doing. I was like, people are going to be on Twisted Sister overload. I almost did a Stay Hungry with this.
You
I
got
feel-
the guitar, so I mean, come on.
I may
It's meant to be.
tomorrow night. I'm gonna have this guitar probably another week or so.
Yep, you got
And,
time.
I may have to do a Twisted Sister lesson on this and do
Yeah,
like a 3 or
absolutely.
4. Like do Stay Hungry, do The Beast, do We're Not Gonna Take It, I Want to Rock, and The Price, something like that, right?
Perfect.
Right, and do it with a Twisted Sister guitar, just because later on in life.
You'll be glad that you documented that experience.
Right.
You know, if anything, this YouTube gives us a platform to say
Thanks, Bryce.
to your grandkids, here's when what your grandpa was like when he was alive. There I am. Love you, kids.
People
Be good
love
in
the
school.
people love the stacks on the deck, man.
Yep.
I think it's I stopped doing it. I did 3 of them, and I thought, man, people are gonna like.
I followed
gotta-
along. I mean, the
No,
first
it's-
one
it's
was kind of
great.
anticlimactic, which made the second one better, right? Because the Friedman shit the bed on that first take of let's crank the Friedman on that in the patio.
Yeah.
And then of course there was I took it in a few months, maybe 6 weeks later or whatever. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm at the store picking it up. I needed a fuse. It's all good. We'll be able to rock and roll. I get it back to the ranch. And a couple weeks later, there you're on the deck with these
Just
amps
cooking.
and the smoke box, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, yeah.
Yep, good stuff.
It's gonna return, man. I'm itching to do it. I just need help now. I gotta have some help moving this stuff.
If I lived closer, I'd come over and haul your fucking cabs with you.
I know, right? Right.
Well,
But
Nashville is what? It's only what 3.5 hours from Atlanta.
yeah. If as long as you can get through Marietta at the right time of day.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
it's
where
all
I'm
time,
at.
right?
That's where I'm starting.
Yeah, well, that's a
So,
good starting point, man. If
yeah.
you were South Nashville, I'd be like, damn, dude. You know, it's gonna take you 2 hours,
2 hours
to
extra.
get out of my. Yeah, it's
Well-
gonna take you 2 hours to get to Marietta.
You know, I'm still young enough. I can move a cabinet around. I could come up there and help you with a video.
That'd be fun, man.
Bring the TransTrem with you.
Hey, there we go.
We could do an on-site video, and it'd be cool.
I mean,
man.
I would hope for
Absolutely.
a live cross stream. You could broadcast on both your channels same time, live on the patio, bunch of amplifiers.
I dig it.
Blow it up.
I thought about.
I'm up for something if you are. So
Yeah, I would do it, man. Let me
Cool.
let me figure
on
out a
that.
weekend that it would that we would be able to do it on. It'd probably be like a Sunday afternoon.
yeah,
Probably be the best. You
Perfect.
know,
that'd work.
It just happens
Yeah.
to be perfect.
I thought about
YouTube content, man. YouTube content.
I thought about asking Eddie Ojeda to come out here and crank the stack also, like,
Yeah.
and be like, dude, can you wear the outfit? the tassels and stuff, and you know,
Of course.
it's just
I
got a power cord.
I have a feeling that he would say no.
No, he would like. He sounds like Al Pacino. He'd be like, sure, man.
Say hello to
Will
my
there be
little
dinner?
friend.
What are we
Cooking steaks or burgers or what?
What are we gonna play? You want me to do the Beast? Should I bring out the bullseye? What time are we doing it?
Yeah.
Can I be like, can you bring D?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
He said he's still friends with D.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the other guys get along with D too well, but he said him and D have a great relationship.
That's
so,
cool.
Right on.
Yeah.
That was good content, man. Having him on there, I really enjoyed that.
Dude, I'm sorry I've taken so much time. It seems like we've.
No,
you
this has
kidding me?
been great, man. This
All
has been
aboard.
great.
Choo choo.
Yeah, I'm down with.
We're
doing
here
the-
until you're ready to quit, Marty.
I'm down with
This
doing
thing.
the deck. We can, owe tribute to the skipper. We can,
Yeah.
we can. We have to call you something like, the professor or something, because I don't know. I got Skipper from Gilligan's Island. I don't know if you
Right,
got the
right.
reference because
Absolutely.
because he reminded me of Skipper on he
Yeah.
looked kind of like Skipper, and I don't think I look like Gilligan, but he started calling me little buddy. And I was like, we got out of. When we got out of the car, I was filming, and it's on one of the videos. We got out of the car at Eastside Music Supply to get my Friedman to pick it up, and I was like, "Well, we're here, Skipper," and he's like, "All right, let's go, little buddy." And when he said it to me, it just caught me off guard, and I just lost it on camera. So I left that on there, but it was so funny.
Yeah.
I should have started. I would have been funnier if I had got him a blue polo shirt and I had like the reds in the hat.
With the little white hat, yeah.
Yeah, and we could up the game and got Marianne out there. I got a couple friends.
Yeah,
As
get
viewers,
the whole
Don't even think of doing it without a ginger. You
the
gotta have
whole
a ginger.
production going, yeah, for sure.
I could make a thumbnail of Marianne's shorts on the deck. I'd get I'd be like, I'd have 100,000 subscribers overnight.
Have you tried to transpose the theme song to Gilligan's Island onto the guitar?
No, but that would be a good one. That'd be a good one. I'd love to do stuff like
I was
that.
thinking a lot of the old 80s shows that we watched, try and transcribe those to guitar would be kind of a fun little compilation.
I would love to do that, and I would put stuff like that on my channel, but you get demonetized. And there's a video that who put this out the other day? Is it Paul Roberts? Who's the guy that's he puts out really good content?
David? Paul David?
Paul Davids put out a video the other day, and I was like really like sucked into it. But dude, I am starting to get like every other day. I've got 340 videos or 350 or something like that up there, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say a good 40-50% of my videos are lessons. Okay, and then out of those 50%, probably 40% of them are Van Halen lessons, right? Now, as well as I do, you don't make a ton of money off YouTube videos. That all adds up to give you a little chunk of change. So it's a lot of littles. But I am starting to get every other day, every 2 or 3 days for the last month, I'm getting demonetization emails.
Oh, really?
Or sharing it. I'm starting to get copyright
Claims.
They're not strikes, right? I'm not getting penalized.
We want all the money.
I am starting to get, I won't even play the song, dude. Like my lessons, just for showing someone how to play 5150 or Running with the Devil.
Yeah.
And I'm not even playing like.
Well, didn't
I don't
AC/DC
play-
give you a hard time? I would have
No.
thought AC/DC is usually infamous.
AC/DC. Dude, I didn't get demonetized for showing how to play Hotel California, or showing or ripping on Jimmy Page on his Stairway to Heaven live solo. But I mean, I took the backing track for Hotel California. I mean, I did the whole solo, note for note. I mean, it sounded just like the record with a backing track. I even took the backing track off someone's YouTube channel, but they say in there that you can use it. But I thought for sure I was going to get a copyright strike, but I didn't even get copywritten. But I'm getting on my Van Halen lessons. There's some European company that's got their fingers in publishing, and about every 3 days I get a copyright claim, and they share revenue on them. I'm like, that's cool. I'm not really making much off of that anyway, but it pisses me off because I am not playing their content.
Right.
I'm not using
It's
any.
like pulling up to a place and paying someone to park your car. I can park my fucking car.
Well, dude, if I was teaching guitar lessons privately, showing someone how to play, it
Wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter. It's just because it's digital, and part of me understands it. I know
But
Rick
it's a gray
Beato's got
area.
an issue with it.
What they
Beato's
let
got
you
an
get
issue
away
with it.
with.
Yeah, and Beato's got an issue with it because he does like what makes his song great.
Isn't
And
he
he
the
plays
champion?
clips of the song, but he's playing clips, and Beato's selling merch. He's selling he wouldn't sell nearly as
Those
much
Beato bundles at
merchandise.
$100 a pop.
Right, so
Got
he's
3.5 million
right.
subscribers.
So
let's
he's
say.
using people's music to sell his stuff,
Right.
and in a way, I am on a much smaller scale. But I'm
But
not.
it's not I don't think he is using other people's music to sell his stuff. He's using his knowledge of other people's music, and he's trying to explain it to you. I mean,
Well,
I
if
do
he
kind of
put
get
up-
it from a lessons point of view, but
well,
I'm
if he put up
that's
a
not
video-
that's not the course I'm buying into. I'll buy
hear
into
you.
a Tim Pierce first, or a Marty5150 first, or something you can get your teeth into.
But if he put up a video that said what makes Van Halen's Fair Warning a great record, it would get like 3 million views, and then throughout that video say, hey, if you want to hear me talk about more of these theories that Eddie employs, buy my book. He got 3 million eyes on that advertisement, and I think he's selling a product. But I don't agree with it, but I kind of get it. But with me, dude, I'm just showing like some riffs. I'm not using any of their content. I'm not playing any of their songs.
Qualify under that educational box, doesn't it? I mean, it's for education.
It's a crock of crap. I could on Paul David's video. He said he has had that happen to him, and he disputed it, and they overturn him. But it's like
takes time and effort, and what the hell.
Yeah, and the good news is I'm not getting strikes on anything. It's not penalizing me. Because it says right in the email, it says, you're not being penalized, don't worry. Yeah. You're just sharing. And I'm like, I get you. You want to just piece of the pie, and you're not going to turn this into a big event because you're really doing something that is lame. But
stirring up the action.
Right, and I'm not I'm not going to dispute it, and it's like whatever. But I just feel like it sucks. And the only videos it's happening to me on are my Van Halen videos for whatever reason.
Really? I've had shorts that I've done, and it's just playing the lick of like an Alice in Chain or something, and the short will get a copyright claim on it. 20 seconds worth of it.
Are you playing to the track itself, or are you just doing it by yourself?
Mostly it's just by myself. Occasionally I'll have a track or something going.
Do you have one in you? Could you share with the rest of the class?
One what?
An Alice in Chains riff.
An Alice in Chain? I'd have to change guitars.
I got a lot of crap on my signal tonight. A lot of delay.
You don't have the box, right?
I think we all do.
I'm not playing it right. I had to play it down to make it
transpose on the flat foot.
I think the one that I had was just a.
Yeah.
And it got a strike, or not a strike, but a claim on that one.
Well, they must the computer recognized it, so you must have been playing it damn good.
I guess I'd take it as a compliment. I guess
it's only if you don't give a shit about making money on the YouTubes. I mean, if you demonetize everything and we're here for the smiles, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, I've got a day job. That's why I didn't mind playing a little bit of the Summer Night backing track on that.
But it's coming close to that.
It just sounds so good.
That 1,000 sub mark. And then it's like we've joked. When he reaches 1,000, all of a sudden he's going to write a check for $20,000 for all the royalties he owes all the people.
Well, I just don't want to get strikes because I don't want to have to. I think if you start getting strikes, the algorithm will start trying to forget you. And
Beato just did a lesson where he spoke and kind of basically named all the people that are doing it. These are the guys you can't play their music.
Yeah, and if you can't,
I kind of showed you maybe a couple, but I played it wrong on purpose. Remember that time?
Yeah, if you don't want to you can get shadow banned, and you can get.
They're not going to mess with Beato now at 3.5 million. And when I started watching him, it was at like 1 million. And it's kind of funny with that Van Halen reference you made earlier with the Beato. If it wasn't for, I'm 54. I've been playing guitar for 2.5 years. I started playing guitar the day after Edward died. I've always had a guitar and an amp around, and my daughter plays guitar. So the equipment was here, but when he passed, I was like, I'll give it another shot. I'm going to try and learn guitar again. But having the resources of the YouTubes and fellas like you and the constant stimulation of something different, something new, learn what you want.
Yeah.
Here I am 2.5 years later. I don't think I'm going to stop now. If anything, this year, spending hours on stuff. Last year, I put 1,000 hours into a certain video game. I was like, damn, what if I put that 1,000 hours into playing guitar? It breaks down to 3 hours a day. We're in the middle of June, and I've passed 500. So I'm on track. It started off slow. It was hard to get, but and even just running laps, Marty. I'm not being fancy. I'll sit here and play major scales up to neck for an hour.
Sure.
Just trying to play them right, play them clean, do it, and just get the muscle memory and trying to get that articulation. I mean, it helps, man.
It sure does. The discipline.
It's
It
the
pays
hours
off.
in the saddle. Hours
It
in the
pays
saddle.
off.
You want to
Yep.
learn some triads? There's tons of triads. You want to learn arpeggios? What do you want to learn, right? It's all there. You just go looking for it.
If you ever get down in the dumps and you don't think you're progressing, the best way to measure your success is record yourself somehow. Just record it. Whether
I
you
put out a
record it-
video on my channel for shits and giggles.
whether you do it on, if you do it in Logic or you do it on your iPhone or whatever you want to do it in, Pro Tools, or just on a tape recorder, record yourself and then
Yeah.
keep recording. And as you go back and listen to it, you'll hear progression because you don't really notice it as you're doing it. And then when you go back, and then
have to, it's like
and also when
measuring
you record-
yourself on the door frame at the house,
Yeah.
right? For Mom.
it helps you. It gives you inspiration to, because you're like, oh, I'm doing better, and it drives you to do even. But what also you have to do is when you record yourself, as brutal as it is, you got to go back and listen to it and go, man, I got to
yeah.
work on my
I need to
pitch.
Muting.
gotta work on
I need to
this."
work on my muting. My God, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Those high strings should not be ringing out right
Yeah,
now. Fat fingers,
self-awareness.
get them laying down.
Play to your strengths too. Gravitate to.
Oh, when something
the
sounds
stuff-
good and you nail
go-
it, you're gonna play
yeah,
it 50
gra-
times, right?
Gravitate to what you do well. Gravitate
Yeah.
towards what you do well, and
It's a blast. And I'm not
And
here to
then hone
form
the
a
stuff you
band.
don't.
I'm not going to write music for all of you and make that next concept album. I'm sitting out here because I got the equipment and the stuff to
Sure.
make the noise, and I'm here for the smiles. I just want to be able to plug into this loud. I like to dime my neighbors.
well, that I could talk all night, but I
And
mean,
not
that sounds
suck.
like that sounds like a great way to close it out. Is say, you know what, we play it because we
The
play it
smiles.
because we love it,
Mhm.
and we
All
are
about the
drawn.
smiles.
We are drawn to it because it makes us happy, and if it brings other people joy, and it brings us
So
joy,
be it.
then that
You want to
is-
share in this ride with me? All aboard. Right?
Yep.
Then mission accomplished.
Yeah,
If,
yeah.
if it
Well
brings you
said.
joy, great. And if you bring joy to others, that's what art is about. That's what music's about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. And but I'm serious. If you want to do the stack thing,
Yeah,
we can get
I
together.
could
and
help
do it.
out with that.
I
I
mean,
could
it's a
help
long
out.
drive, but if you want to do it, man,
It's all for the good of YouTube content, man. So I'm
yeah.
down
And then
for
you
it.
could even do a spin-off
trip
on it
vlog.
too. Like this is like we get on a science. We're on a science journey.
Yep, yep, for science. Exactly.
Let's get as many beautiful minds together at once as we can.
Yep. All right, well, we have gone way over what we normally do. We're 3 hours and 10 minutes in.
So much fun.
And, yeah.
Well,
Go
thank
ahead.
you for letting me blabber and talk, and thanks for the invite.
You know what? I
do
had
it
a great
again.
time. We
I always
really
enjoyed the channel
enjoyed.
and like your
Yeah.
stuff, but now I feel like we're kind of friends.
Absolutely,
Marty's
me
my
too,
friend
man.
now, for sure.
Yeah,
We're friends.
really enjoyed having you on here. I really appreciate it. Everybody in the chat, thanks for hanging out. We still got 31 that have hung out with us here, so
Wow.
want to thank everybody.
Ride the light.
We're going to be doing it again Sunday, just doing chat and jam. So, Marty, you're welcome to come anytime that you want. Drop in,
Fantastic.
say hello. We kind of do things a little different. We kind of open things up to the chat. Anybody that wants to jump in and jam out. So
Send an email, get screened, and away
Well, I'm
you go.
glad you reached out to me, and I discovered it that way. So I
Yeah.
will.
well, very cool.
Well,
Very
and
cool.
There's times where we have team meetings, and then we're not broadcasting. We're just trying to figure some stuff out. I mean, well, we'll send you a link once in a while.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can. You can email me, and I can send you some other contact information.
Cool.
And
Very cool. Well, again, thank you for coming out. Everybody in the chat, thanks for hanging out.
My pleasure.
Hopefully, we got everybody's questions answered, and hopefully, we'll do it again
To
soon.
be honest
So-
with you, man, I really didn't pay attention to the chat much at all tonight.
Yeah,
Been really focused
know.
on the center monitor here.
They were popping up on my screen, so I tried to.
yeah, I was trying to catch a few here
Hey,
and there.
there's-
So,
So
There's no
the
there's no
highlighted
lesson
letters of
tomorrow. No lesson tomorrow, guys. I spent all night on this thing, so this was my content creation.
This
night.
was your lesson. It's a lesson in life, and then now we know what kind of a fella you are.
I'll be back Saturday with some some content.
Sounds good.
Right on.
Well, again, thank you, everybody. We'll see everybody Sunday when we do this again. And until then,
See ya.